3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin.
And welcome back to the podcast. And it's somehow become Scottish season for this month on Chasin The Racin. We have the one and only John McPhee sitting opposite, and the legend, and the bigger legend of the podcast, Josh Corner. How we doing, son?
Very well, how are you?
He says that through gritted teeth every time, you know. Somehow take the piss in some little form of manner, but you are the man.
I've just spent 3 hours in the van. I've got to pretend that I haven't, and we're just starting this from...
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Obviously, this podcast is brought to you by OMG Racing, GCT, Truck and Trailer Hire, and Lucky Day Competitions. Gotta love it. Buy a ticket, spend some money. John, how the devil are you, son? Back on native soil, straight from the MotoGP paddock.
Yeah,
well, not right now. Well,
I'm just going to say, first of all, we got started after a good 20 minutes of trying to chain the generator up because you don't trust the Scots in this area.
I do work, I'm allowed to say that. Like, we're near the border, right? There's a lot of you, and you've got to be careful. But no, I'll tell you what, you've actually hit the nail on the head. We are in an abandoned car park outside of your hotel in Edinburgh, just off the Forth Bridge. And what was this building? Did anyone actually
looks like
it's boarded up anyway.
a Mecca Bingo, Bingo Hall or something like that. Yeah.
I like it how you identified that. Is that where you go pick up sponsorship, is it?
Yeah.
Just get some old women, like, reel them in there. How did Bingo go pet?
I'm not precious, it could be Ben as well.
Hey, money's money, isn't it? Money's money. But no, you're 100% right. But John, I'll tell you what, I don't know you. I'm looking forward to getting to know you, and the fact that you've just walked into an abandoned car park and just
jumped in the back of the trailer.
Got out the trailer. Hi guys, you all right? It's just like you've obviously travelled the world a bit and gone, this isn't scary to you at all. But so, what brings you back to native soil then?
So yeah, I've been flew back a couple of days ago. Flew to Mallory Park, visited my new Hawk Racing team for 2025, and we had some pictures and some media things to do at Mallory Park yesterday. And then I've travelled up here today. I literally arrived about an hour ago. We're going into the Scottish Bike Show this weekend, so we're going to unveil the new 2025 colours. So all exciting times. Yeah, it's all starting to get going.
Have you got a photo of that now? See, we're catching you just before the show.
Do you know I do?
By the time we go on,
do you want to see it?
Oh, we do. This is fantastic.
You know,
we'll have to sign a disclaimer for 2 days.
I'm just going to quickly do the episode sponsor because we're that keen to get cracking that we've missed out here. So, yeah, this week's episode is brought to us by SLH Motorcycles, which is a Teesside based firm. It's run by a guy called Sam Smith, who's not the singer.
I was about to say he's digressing.
I think he was in Monte Blanco.
Yeah, so he's
kind of funny there as well.
Yeah. Sam's a good personal friend, long time supporter of the podcast, and yeah, he's just set up he's been doing this a long time, but he's like sort of formally set up a business as SLH Motorcycles, specialising in trials, motocross, enduro, rally bike stuff. Sam is an absolutely phenomenal off-road rider for anyone that doesn't know him. Very, very talented off-road rider. He's worked for a number of different Superbike teams and stuff. He's working for Nathan Harrison this year, and he's done a lot on the roads with like Connor Cummins and stuff in the past. So yeah, go and give his page a follow, and if you've got a trials bike and you live in the northeast, well, anywhere in England, I'm pretty sure he'll deal with it for you. But yeah, trials, motocross, enduro stuff in the northeast, easy man.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, we can't do this without sponsors.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely, I tell you what. So, Howie, hand over the goods, John. Hand over the goods.
There we are. That is it. If you want to put it up to the.
Oh, that's trick. That yeah.
I mean, not the best backdrop. It was in the workshop, but that was a sneaky little picture I got before they unveiled it properly.
Have you seen the wind deflectors for the the
brakes? Yeah.
No, that's not wind deflectors. What would you call them? Air drags.
I think it's for keeping heat in, isn't it?
It is for keeping. It's for cooling them down.
I think it's for cooling them down. Yeah.
For cooling the
what would you call them?
The caliper down.
I don't know what you call them, like caliper ducts, maybe.
I like that. Let's go with caliper ducts. That makes sense, even with the Scottish flag on them.
Yeah, like that.
Honestly, they've put so much detail in. They've got, like, if you look at the rear sets, they've got my name on there. They've put the little flag on the front. They've got little McPhee and 17 stickers everywhere. I'm pretty impressed. They went to town on it.
I like the blue. That's a nice change for those guys. It's been
and both bikes are with the same, obviously, but Charlie's number's still going to be yellow in the front, and mine will be like a blue and chrome, so it looks pretty cool. Ties in pretty smart.
Nice. Oh, and you're a thumb brake man as well.
I am, yeah.
See, this is good. Not the scooter brake shite. But I tell you what, I'm so like I said before, I don't know you. Obviously, I know the name. I know what you've done for Scotland. Obviously, been in the MotoGP paddock, and I'm really looking forward to this story. There you are. You probably can't hear this, but the sounds of Scotland.
That's somebody trying to steal a generator.
I tell you what, mind you, Grace, unfortunately the cameras won't keep rolling, so if this switches off and the episode finishes, it's because it's a...
Someone's nicked the Jenny.
Well, no. The worst thing is, it's not even our Jenny. We've still got it on loan from Lewis Rollo. So we'll be totally in debt to the Perry on that side of things. But hey, let's go back to the beginning. What the hell got you on a motorcycle? Money. I'm joking.
Well, exactly, yeah. Mum and dad looking after me. So it all started I was 5 years old. My dad was racing motocross. He just raced like local motocross and done things like the Weston Beach Race and things like that. And literally it was a little club in the little village that I come from, and I had a PW50 and used to just go and, to be fair, we'd done a lot of riding, but then the rest of the time we're normal kids throwing mud balls at each other and all the rest of it. And yes, raced motocross up until I was 12 years old. And then my uncle at the time was racing. He done a couple of road races down the Northwest, done like Scottish Championship.
All right.
And I was always just, from as young as I can remember, always just had this passion for bikes and wanted to go racing. And then didn't really ever think of going the road route. I always wanted to be a motocrosser for some reason as a kid. But honestly speaking, I wasn't good enough and wasn't fast enough. Used to have a lot of crashes. And then one of my mates, Ben Young, he raced in the Scottish Championship. He was like a year older than me. Don't know if you remember Ben. He raced in Stock 1000 and BSB for a while. And
did he go? Is he from Canada?
Yeah, literally.
Or did he live in Canada for a bit?
So they immigrated over there, yeah.
Yeah, I do. He worked for WD-40 for a bit.
Exactly, yeah. So I remember turning up at Knockhill with my uncle one time, and my dad, obviously family there supporting him, and Ben's bike was for sale, and I'm like, how's he riding that? He's only a year older than me. And then kind of the rest of it was all went on from there. We got his bike and started racing. And
what bike was that though?
That was an Aprilia RS 125, and I've still got it to this day. I've still got it. It's in my mum and dad's garage at home. One of the many things that's cluttering up their garage.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Because I always wish I'd kept my Super Team bike and never did. Yeah. I wish I had of. That's class that you've kept that.
Still got it, yeah. So that was kind of how the racing journey started. We went from there, and then started going road racing.
So, and that was at 13-year-old at that point then?
Yeah. So I was 12 going on 13. It was quite a funny one because obviously, like 12-year-old kids, you got a new motorbike, you want to go racing. My birthday was in the middle of the year, so it was in the middle of July. I remember doing my test, and I think it was August, and it's pretty much like you can't fail it, can you? So done the test.
I've seen some people try.
Thankfully, I passed the test. And then end of the season, I think I got one round, and then end of the season I actually got meningitis. So I was like bedbound for months. I was basically really unwell, couldn't race, and I was like just champing at the bit to get back racing again. And then the very last race of the season in 2007, that was, I was well enough to go racing again. So I got one round in before the end of the year, and I won that weekend. There was 4 races, and I won my last race of the weekend. So it was like, went from being like not a great start to motorbike racing to
nearly dying.
Yeah, exactly.
Scrape under the bar of depth and then come back. Now, there's not been many stories like that, I'm telling you that much.
Yeah. So it was a really strange thing at that age to just, I don't know what caused it, obviously. But
so you didn't do the mini motor route, and you were doing some motocross stuff, but not loving it essentially. But.
Yeah, I was loving it. I just wasn't good enough. I never ever even looked at tarmac. My first ever run on a bike was around Knockhill car park, and I remember like trying to impress my dad first time on the bike and thinking, right, I'm going to get my knee down. But it was like in a dirty car park with gravel spread everywhere, and thinking now if I did get my knee down I probably would have been sliding up the floor. So never, just literally went straight to tarmac. So it was pretty strange. I remember the first time sitting on the bike thinking, I can't see the front wheel moving, like going from a motocross bike to a road bike. And it just kind of clicked. It kind of worked for me. I think the speed was always kind of there, but I never had the feeling for motocross or the talent or the whatever it was. I just wasn't quite good enough at motocross. So
what, like that's late. So I'm trying to think, 13-year-old, what would have been the biggest motocross you got to then? Big wheel 85?
I can't remember if it was big wheel 85 or maybe a CR 125. I didn't race 125s, but I definitely raced 85s, and I think it was small wheel because I've always been pretty small.
Yeah. No, it's like I always use the Stat family, who's a northeast, but little Hayden Stat, he's only just turned 14. He's doing European stuff in motocross, man. The lad can pedal about. Like, you understand the sport of motocross. If you went and watched Hayden, he's not a tall lad, far from it, and the way he can just handle those things. But you need the power, you need the weight, you need to be able to actually chuck the bike really hard.
Yeah.
And that's impressive at like a 13-year-old, obviously going from 85 big wheels. So what was that actual decision element? Because at 13, you still just want to ride bikes, that actual decision to go to the car park. Who was that led by?
So it was myself. That was the funny thing. Yeah, it was me that wanted to do it. I think I just always wanted to, I had a passion for bikes. I just never really knew like what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. I never ever had a dream of like being a motorcycle racer professionally or like going to Grand Prix or anything like that. I just loved bikes and wanted to race, and it kind of just went down that route. I think motocross, we only had something like 8 or 9 rounds a year, and it was on a local track, and it was always on the same track, and I was like, well, now I can go and ride Knockhill and East Fortune and maybe get down to Croft or whatever. And just as a kid, I was just like buzzing to go racing. Oh,
so it was just more the choices of venues that you thought, I can actually ride more and impress your dad, really?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I don't know. It was just always this passion. I just wanted to go fast and ride my motorbike.
No, I'm just sorry. I feel like I'm picking on you already here. It doesn't take as long, but at 13, who did someone say you were shy on a crosser? No, I'm just trying to pick it.
I think I just knew. I used to be like,
that's a very mature 13-year-old.
I used to be loose and then just crash, and I used to like literally. I would be like, I remember every Monday going into school, and my mates or the teacher would be like, "Oh, what's hurting today? What have you injured over the weekend?" Yeah. I used to just crash my brains out. So. And like literally when I say I race motocross, it wasn't even Scottish Championship, it was like a local club championship, so it was really like amateur racing. It wasn't it wasn't professional by any means.
I must ask then, I feel like we're almost trying to dive away from the ultimate question on Chasin The Racin here. Was your dad a bit of a motocross dad, or was he quite? You tell me.
No, honestly, furthest thing from it, and I laugh about it to this day. Like even like winning my first Grand Prix or like getting a podium or whatever, I've never had a pat on the back ever. He's a bit like, good job, like do it again next time type thing. That's the most I'll literally get from him. Sometimes he'll crack a little smile, but he's not one of them dads that gives me like any praise, or he doesn't 100% gives me no pressure. He's like one of probably the opposite of a motocross dad. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but I've had teams before that have been like not on your side, or crew that are not on your side, and my dad will team up with them. He'll be like, yeah, like maybe you're not riding it properly, or maybe this isn't right, or whatever, and like he won't stick up for me as such, not in a bad way. I think it's actually been a really positive thing over the years, but he's never like put pressure on my shoulders, or never like tried to push me in any direction.
If you don't mind me asking, are you a lonely child?
No, I've got 3 sisters.
Please tell me he loves them more. Like he's bought them cars, houses, you know what I mean, ponies, the job lot. It's like, no, but like, have you had it harder because you're the only son?
I wouldn't say I've had it harder, definitely not.
I feel sorry for your sisters already, Jesus.
No, I mean, I've maybe worded it wrong. He's not like... No, he's not hard on me. He just like... He'll never put pressure on me, but then at the same time, if I do well, he'll never really praise me. He's one of them ones that just kind of stays...
Like pretty neutral.
Yeah, 100% stays neutral across the board, yeah. So, and I like that. I actually like the fact that like he's never pushing you to go and do anything, but yeah.
Because I feel like obviously we're going to go down like the MotoGP route later on. I feel like your dad's going to jump up a fair bit in these stories, but it's like, when that decision came around at 13-year-old, I want to jump on a tarmac bike and everything like that, what was his reaction? Was he a bit like, I'm happy not to be cleaning the bike, covered in shite all the time now, or a bit more involved?
Yeah. Well, he's been like my biggest supporter and my biggest helper over the years. So obviously going motocross, like you said there, we used to be known. It was quite funny. We used to be known for like the family that didn't clean the motocross bikes. He was so busy. He runs his own business, so he'd be so busy through the week. We'd literally turn up to the track on a Sunday morning, and he'd be like revving the bikes and banging the mud guard to try and knock the mud off the underneath of it.
That's fantastic.
And maybe get the odd bit of chain loop here and there, and like tire pressures weren't a thing. He used to literally just give the tires a push and be like, literally give it a push, be like, yeah, that's fine, on you go. So that's class. And then when we went road racing, obviously that completely changed. He got a lot more serious in terms of, he knew that like a motocross bike, you can't really go wrong, can you? But as soon as you're getting up to like higher speeds and whatever, things had to be a lot more serious, and that impressed me as a kid. It impressed me massively, because I'm like, he's stripping engines and rebuilding engines, and he always kind of done that thing, but he was like the mechanic, the lorry driver, the cleaner, the bike driver, done everything across the board. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So when you started racing Aprilia 125s, how many years did you do that before you went on to like GP 125s? Because my first memory of you is being on I just remember it being blue with Dayglow on it, 125 in like 2010.
That would have been.
Yeah, I was going to say 2009, but probably would be 2010, yeah, 2010.
Oh, sorry, yeah, end of 2009, you're right. You're a better remember than me. Yeah, end of 2009, so it was such a quick, that's the thing, it was such a quick transition from there to like getting serious because, so the year I had meningitis and done the first race, that was 07, 2008 I done Scottish Championship. And I won the championship that year. It was my first full year, so we were like, all of a sudden it was like, oh, I've done actually all right at this. And then I remember end of 2008, we were literally out for dinner. My dad had a few beers and we started talking about like what we're going to do next season. And he was like, obviously racing's expensive. We don't have loads of money to throw at this. Like, what do you want to do? We're going to do our best to support you next year and try and go racing again. Like, where do you want to go? And the two options obviously are Super Teens or British Championship. And I was kind of like, well, I'm probably not fast enough at the minute for British Championship, but at the same time, what's the point in going straight to Super Teens, and then if things go well, you then go British Championship. We might as well just leapfrog in. So literally we went, bought a GP 125 after a year of racing and went to British Championship.
And how old were you at this point?
I would have been 14.
14, making decisions like that. Like, just what, like, was, you know, at the beginning you said you had no ambitions of being MotoGP level, you know. What changed at 13, 14? Like the fact that you wanted the leapfrog. What was...
Honestly, then I still didn't have an ambition. I wanted to just win races and go fast. I just never dreamed or imagined that next step could have happened, but everything really just happened so fast.
Yeah.
But making decisions like that to be in the deep end, you know, like 14, you think, well, let's just keep winning races, you know what I mean? We've won one.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just keep winning races. But the fact that your dad has come up to you and gone, actually, you know, what would you like to do? And you've just gone, well, balls to this, let's go.
Yeah, I think it was like a little bit of just, if you progress and you want to step forward, like, I mean, you're going to go Super Teens, then you're going to go British 125s, and first year in 125s, it's going to be hard to win anything, so you're going to need 2 years anyway, and it's like, you might as well just go straight there. That was my kind of thought process at that age.
And it was
14.
Was ultra competitive then. I mean, not that it was never not competitive, but there was like Robbie Stewart and Rob Guyver and like some proper James Lodge, like real doers doing 125s.
I remember watching the first year turned up, and it was Martin Glossop, and I still message him to this day. He was like a legend, such a good rider. And there was him, it was Paul Jordan, there was William Dunlop, all these guys all riding for KRP at the time, who I later joined the year after I joined them. And I remember watching them just thinking like, oh God, what am I in for here? These boys are so fast, it's ridiculous. But there's some proper good competition back then.
Mad, isn't it?
Like, hold on, Paul Jordan, road racer TT, right? Right. And he was teammates with William Dunlop.
He was, yeah.
Right.
I think so. William was really good mates with Mark Keane, who was the team owner. So I think Mark basically prepped the bike, and then William would come and join them just for the odd race. He wasn't with them full time for a full season, not at that time anyway.
William used to turn up and like not do practice on a Friday and just do qualifying on a Saturday, and then like be at the front. Yeah, and it was really fucking annoying.
To this day, though, William Dunlop had the best style.
Yeah.
On a motorcycle. Anyone can try and challenge me on that. You know, take everyone out the MotoGP, but every photo of William, bearing in mind, he had the same style on a road circuit as well as he did it on a British short. Nothing hanging off, just full lean. And it was his elbow down before even his knee. I remember breaking down going around the 33rd at the TT. And honestly, I remember watching him every time. It was just pinpoint perfect. And he did an early apex. And it was only him and Bruce Anstey that went in early. And they used to come out and just like almost just kiss the white line off the edge of the mountain. And I broke down really like at first lap. And these lads did 4. Every time, wham, bang, wham, bang. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, amazing to watch.
And I remember going back going, I'm going to do that. Did I shite? Like I dipped in too early. 50 pence did. It was
a really good 125 rider, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. He was, like you say, he would turn up like I think he used to just come for bike time before doing the road races, and he would like miss Friday practice and then just go straight into Saturday, and he'd be instantly on the pace, and you're like, how does he do that? How was he so precise and so fast so quickly? But it was always impressive to watch.
So, talk me through your first season then. So at 14, which is amazing. Let's just jump in the deep end. 14-year-old. We've got this GP 125 bike. Talk me through it. Did it live up your expectations? Did you over succeed, under succeed? Tell me.
So round 1, I got a point in Brands Hatch, which I was like delighted with at the time. Absolutely delighted with. and then it started to go a little bit up and down from there. I think my best result, I never even bagged a top 10 all year, but I was kind of always floating around that 10th to 15th. And the bike we were on at the time, it was good. That's another one we've still got to this day, which is really, really cool.
I feel like every bike's going to end up in the garage from this whole story.
And we had a good year. Like, it was brilliant. It was like a little family run team. It was my mum, my dad. We had like family and friends that used to come and support us all from Oban. There'd be like 3 or 4 vans or motorhomes driving up and down the country every weekend. And like, looking back, that's some of the best times I've ever had in my whole racing career. Was like when it just went back to really simple times.
Like, is that where the fact you're from Oban?
From Oban, yeah, literally.
Jeez, that's like top west, isn't it?
Yeah, west coast. Yeah, it's like another 2.5, 3 hours north of here. So
is that where the McPhee family still are? So when
that's where still are, yeah. So I'm still down south. We're in Edinburgh, and I'm still down south at the minute.
Cracking whiskey, by the way. If you want a whiskey, there's a whiskey distillery. That's the only time I've ever been there. I was absolutely placid going through, but anyway, that's a different story. Just keep handing you this clear, like honestly, just clear, and then it just gets more flavourful.
Yeah, the more
whiskey tours are class.
The more you have, the better it tastes.
Yeah, 100%. That is some distance, mate.
So yeah, we done that, and then through that season, like halfway through, obviously the GP 125s are so like fickle with what you guys will know, the way they are, like trying to set them up, they have to be right. And there's a guy, Mark Keane, at the time, who I'm sure many people know. He ran KRP race team. He basically took us under his wing and was like, look, I'll take your bike home from this round, I'll do a load of work to it, I'll kind of prep it a little bit better, and then from every race moving forward now, you guys park next to us and we'll basically look after you. So that was what we done. And then I was desperate. I want to be in his team. Like he's got the best team. He's got like the best bikes.
He did have the best everything.
Yeah,
they were the best bikes.
Literally the best ones. So, and he ran 5 riders. It was like just such a cool outfit. We were in not there's anything wrong with it. We were in a Sprinter van with the awning, and he's got like a race truck with 5 bikes and all different mechanics. It looked really cool. So I remember being like, I really want to ride for them. And then he was basically like, there's no space. We've already got our riders for next year, but we'll look after you. Like, maybe we'll try and squeeze you an hour on in, or if we have a spare bike, you can ride our bike or whatever. I'm like, okay. So 2010, we kind of started the year ready to just go and do the same thing again. We got to like March, and I remember my dad coming and speaking to me, and one of the times he did have a big cheesy in his face. He's like, I just got a phone call. Do you want to change the colour of your bike for this year? And I was like, I quite like the blue, to be honest. And then he's like, no, it's we can put it black and red. And I was like, didn't have a clue what he was on about. He was, Mark Keane's offered you a ride for the year. If you want to go and ride for him, you can join the team. And I was buzzing. I was absolutely buzzing. So basically joined them for 2010, and it like completely transformed my year. I ended up winning races and was like more or less consistently in the top 5. So I had a really, really good year. And at the end of the year, he bloody put me on a wild card. I'm my first ever wild card at Grand Prix. So I literally raced bikes for like 2-3 years, and he put me straight into Grand Prix for a wild card. And I remember being lost, like absolutely lost.
Keep going into detail. I'm sorry, all that you don't just like 2 years of Jeep and then British.
And then, and he literally he basically said, do you want a wild card in Valencia? And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but yeah,
why
not exactly. So that was what we done. Yeah, we went and done a wild card at Valencia last Grand Prix.
You are this close to watering down a great story. You're like, just wild carded like Valencia. Jesus, wait, that opportunity in front of you. We are not like, for fuck's sake, are we? Let's calm down a bit here.
Yeah, honestly, it was like everything just happened so quickly.
Did a part of you want to say no?
Not really. I mean, I knew I was going to be not very fast, obviously, but I was just like, I was like, why not? Let's go and do a Grand Prix. I didn't even know if I'd qualify. I didn't know
on your British. Yeah. That would have been the last little bit in the Moto3 era, like maybe up to 2014. But that was like the last time you could do that, couldn't you? Go and wildcard in a Grand Prix, because Mark used to do that every year, didn't he? And Paul Jordan and all those lads did it at Donington. I remember watching them doing it then.
Well, that was the thing. It was kind of Mark's thing. He used to do it every year when it was Donington back then, wasn't it? Grand Prix. Like, you would always see there'd be like 3 or 4 guys that would come in wildcard from British Championship, and Mark basically used to always do it. Any opportunity he had, he would take guys and they would do wildcards. So for him, it was kind of the normal thing. But for me, I was racing motocross just a couple of years ago at my local track. It didn't seem that normal.
No, it was your Grand Prix.
So no, it was really cool. Like it happened so fast. And Mark, so a combination of Mark Keane and the Racing Steps Foundation, they were a foundation around for a few years. There's a guy, Graham Sharp, and he basically, it was self-funded. He wanted to help youngsters, or his dream, I'll go back a little bit, his dream as a kid was to go racing, like racing cars essentially was what he wanted to do. And his family never had the budget to be able to support him and let him go and be a professional racing driver. So he then became like a really very, very successful businessman, earned his money himself, and then basically decided he wanted to put back into the industry and help young kids to go racing. And we were looking at it just a few days ago, actually. He helped, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was like, say, 10 or 12 different youngsters. And out of all of them, there's only, I think, 4 of them that haven't actually made it to become professional and haven't made a career from it. He's had such a good success rate. More or less all the car guys have now turned professional. They're I think,
Is it Oliver
there's Oliver Turvey and Oliver Rowland. They've got Jack Harvey, who's out in America. There's Jake Dennis. He's a test driver he's doing the simulator stuff work for Red Bull F1. Yeah. He's just like, honestly, he's just finally picked like all these guys, and he's basically been able to.
Because when they came into bikes, they were really big in cars anyway. They'd already done a lot of car stuff, hadn't they?
Yeah.
And then their first year in bikes was 2010 with Fraser and Wayne.
So that year, 2010, when I was with KRP, like my teammates, looking back now, I had like some really, really special teammates. So I had Taylor McKenzie for a start, who I'm now great mates with as well. There was Dakota Momola, Randy Momola's son, and then there was the 2 Racing Steps Foundation boys, was Fraser Rogers and Wayne Ryan, and they were like, it was just crazy. We were like young kids, and they were fully supported, fully sponsored, like everything paid for by the Racing Steps Foundation. And then I got taken on by the foundation at the end of that year. They were the ones that funded the wild card. And then they basically funded the next few years of racing for me for Spanish Championship and my first year in Grand Prix.
When you went to, I remember looking at your bikes that you rode in the Spanish Championship. I bought my first 125 off Mark in 2010 and had a problem with it. We're on our way to Brands Hatch, and he's like, just come to my house. And he literally put us up in his house. He was we'd met him once before this, right? And he said, just come to the house, bring the bike, we'll strip it, and then we'll put it on the dyno and everything tomorrow, and we'll sort it, and then you'll get off to Brands. So we spent the night at his house, and Wayne was staying there, and I think he must have just got the Aprilias.
Yeah.
That was what you guys were going to ride the next year, weren't you? So
yeah.
I remember just being like, fuck me, this is unbelievable. It's close as I'd been to a Grand Prix bike. And it was mint. Mark
was brilliant, honestly. I think it was a bit like doing an apprenticeship as a youngster on how to become a professional rider, and he used to be like, now I'm great mates, Mark's one of my best mates now, but back then it was you either loved him or I absolutely fucking hated him. It was one or the other, literally. And he'll laugh, listen to this, he'll be like, yeah, that was him, because he was so short fused that if you'd done something wrong, he would just flip out and scream at you, so you knew when to speak, when not to speak. And we went Spanish Championship, and always there was no money spared whatsoever on the bike. He always had the best best bike, best equipment, whatever. And there was the small details that he used to be like, I'm not paying for that. So tires, we used to basically be like, right, you boys go in the back of the truck, all the tires are there, you pick what you're going to run. Obviously we get new tires for qualifying and racing, whatever, but free practice, he's like, unless you get to this lap time, you're not getting a new set of tires.
That's class.
But he'd make you pick your part warrants, and Fraser and Wayne, they didn't have a clue what a good part warrant or a bad part warrant is, so I was like, I'll take this and this, thanks very much. And then he used to give us one tire lever. He was like, right, you're only getting one tire lever, because any more than that, you'll fucking damage my rims. And he'd make you change all your own tires, balance them all, and put them all in the rack.
I like that.
And if you didn't do it, you basically didn't have tires. So it was a bit you all had to muck in.
I like that.
And it used to be, it was €15 to get a tire change. And I remember a few of the boys being like, oh, we don't want to change tires. Well, go and pay for it yourself then. If you don't want to change your tires, then you pay for it. I'm not paying for it. So it was a good way to be brought up and start to really understand and appreciate what was actually going on, and everyone that was supporting you around you, what they were all putting in, because he made you basically do your apprenticeship and learn what was being done.
Is there anyone like that left in the paddock?
Well, for context, Mark's dad was the same basically, but years before when like Keith Ewan and that were racing. So he had, and because he's got some of them bikes now, hasn't he? I've seen some lovely restos that he's done.
He started restoring some of his dad's old like Grand Prix bikes that he had got, and he's honestly, if you can ever, you should do a podcast with him actually. Because
he'd be a fantastic guest. Yeah, I don't know why we've not done that already.
Just get him lined up, get him sat down, and let's go for it.
I'll take a cut.
Yeah, he's working in F1 now, isn't he? He's working with Red Bull or something, isn't he?
Yes, right so he's working. He's I don't know the full detail. You can ask him about it when
we'll get him on. Yeah, save that for that one.
He's got confidence this is happening. We haven't got to get in the interview yet. It might never happen.
But yeah, literally in his house. He's just moved house. So I've not seen the new setup. But in his old house, in the dining room, he had like old 500s and all the old 2-stroke bikes. It's incredible to see. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, he was a great guy, and like you say, I don't really think that there is anybody left like that anymore. I still suppose the championships have moved on, haven't they? But yeah,
not. What I like about that is it's basically he could blatantly afford to go pay €15 to get a tyre changed, if you know what I mean. Like, out of principle, change your own tyre and earn your keep. People don't have that anymore, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose
I can't believe that wasn't even long ago.
Yeah.
I thought that died out in the 80s, 90s. That at that level.
Yeah, they're going and changing your own tyres.
You know what I mean? I think that's absolutely brilliant.
But if you think about like what you see, I think it's a really good point. Like Fraser and Wayne in that year, for example, being funded by this, it's like the dream. It's like, you're talented motorcycle racers and we're going to take you through and give you the opportunity to go to Grand Prix. That could easily wreck you at the same time if you weren't smart.
Yeah.
Like, so doing those sort of things would keep you grounded and would make you just appreciate, actually, you might be here and you might be getting funded, but that €15 is like, you're gonna do it. Like, it's a good thing. I remember he always used to make the lads wash their own fairings and stuff.
It used to be like standard setup would be you'd arrive at the track and you'd wash the truck first of all, so we'd all muck in, we'd wash the truck, wash the fairings, change your tyres, and he's probably listening to this like, lying bastard, they never used to do that, but we genuinely did.
He tried to.
Well, Nick the truck used to be, and we like do half of it and the other half of it, you won't see that, we'll be fine.
No, but that should happen more. I tell you what, I'm fast forwarding here, but like if you got up, like if you ran a team at that level, would you adopt that attitude?
100%. 100%. I would. I think it's not for anyone that's been in the game for a long time or that's older than, I don't know, 25 years old or whatever, but for youngsters, 100%. I think it's so important to not be treated as a professional when you're young, because you're not.
Princess,
you need to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or the world's given to you. But I tell you, that is such a fast forward career.
Yeah.
To be at that level, like, was it really apparent to you? Did it sink in the situation you were? Like, someone going, go pick your own part ones, change your own tyres. Here's a huge opportunity.
Not really. No, I honestly, I think it wasn't until I remember being at Mark's one day and driving to the airport and him kind of being like, and even at this stage, I never really, I don't know why, I just never really clicked that, maybe I could go Grand Prix, because I was in the car with him, I was racing Spanish Championship, and he had said something like, I've been speaking to, like, it was Peter Ball's his name, he was a great guy from the Racing Steps Foundation, he used to look after the motorbike side, and he's, I've been speaking to Peter about like the future, what's going to happen, and obviously you won't be with me because I'm not going to be able to step up with the team, but we're going to try and place you in a Grand Prix team. And I was like, remember at registering, I was getting like sweaty hands sitting in the car on the way to the airport, like, oh my god, I can't believe he's just said that, I might be going Grand Prix, like what on earth's going on here? So it happened so fast, and between Mark and the Racing Steps, they really guided me and shaped my career basically.
Was that just, in your opinion, at that age, at such a young age, was just like, whatever, this happens to everyone?
I didn't,
in a way, you're thinking,
obviously I was, I don't know, obviously I had a dream of like, I would love to do it, I just never believed that it could actually happen. And I was funny, like in terms of road racing, because I came from the motocross scene as well, I didn't really follow anyone's career in road. Even now, like I've got some funny story, like 2010 with Mark, I remember doing a track walk, and for a start, not in a bad way, but I had Dakota Momola as a teammate. Never had a clue who his dad was at the time. Obviously I knew who Taylor and Neil McKenzie were because from Scotland, but we done a track walk in Alton Park, one of the first rounds of the year, and I remember coming back and one of the guys was like, how'd you do the track walk? I was like, what track walk with? And I was like, don't know, some old Irish guy, and he was like, okay. And then a picture went out like a couple hours later, and it was Jeremy McWilliams, and I had no idea who he was. It's like some old Irish guy, and the picture still surfaces every now and again. I send it to him like, all right, how are you getting on, you old Irish guy? So it's I didn't really know like what a standard career was in road racing at the time. So I guess from that I was a bit naive to the whole thing, what was actually going on.
And that's probably the best possible way of doing it, because this is my perspective on your career, but it's almost like there were just other people riding bikes.
Yeah.
You weren't following, you weren't looking at their family history, you were probably just going, I just want to beat them.
That's the goal, move to the next one, do that.
What a beautiful way of doing it, really.
Yeah, but also, like, I know it was fast from going from there to British Championship Grand Prix, but you were running right at the front of Spanish Championship and stuff like that, weren't you? Those used to be the Valencia's obviously was always the last Grand Prix, and then the week before, the week after was the Spanish Championship.
The week after, yeah.
And
then it was like the perfect practice or warm up, like racing a Grand Prix, and then go back the week later, and the competition's all of a sudden not quite as fast as it was. It was like the ideal practice for the weekend.
So then, and I remember that used to be televised. I can't remember on what, but it was a big thing, and there's just so many names. Like, I remember watching one of them when you was riding Aprilias, and Oliveira was there on the first ever Moto3 Honda.
Yeah.
In like full HRC colours and stuff, and like some proper names, like mental names if you look back now that are in it. And then, so how many years of Spanish Championship did you do before you went into Grand Prix?
2 years, so 2011 and 12. So 11 was last year 125s, and then again we done a couple of wildcards that year. I done one in Silverstone.
Yeah.
Got my first ever point in Grand Prix in that first wildcard, and then we done another one in, I'm trying to think if that was 11 or 12. No, that was 12. So at the end of 2011 we done another one in Valencia, and then 2012 we done another wildcard in the British Grand Prix, and then we done Brno. We went there and done a wildcard at Brno, and essentially that was what opened doors for me to go Grand Prix racing. At that stage I was like, okay, now I know I want to go Grand Prix. I've done a few wildcards, I've scored a few points, like that's definitely the route I want to go. So that was like 100% the target, and I was working hard to try to get there. And the race in Brno was really funny. So we were I always had this really bad habit that I would, before a race, like to try and calm the nerves, I would want to sleep. So I would like try and just close my eyes and have a little 10 minutes before, like the last thing I would do is I would wake up, put my helmet and kit on and go on the bike. I didn't want to speak to anyone, and just as a kid being nervous, that was my routine. And obviously like you turn up to a Grand Prix and the nerve level turns up times 10, and I started doing this really stupid thing. I wasn't stupid, but it was strange. I was putting all my kit on, leaving the top half of the leathers off, and then lying down with like my boots and my leathers on, so I could literally just wake up, put my leathers on, helmet on, go. And it was qualifying in Brno, and we were like out the back. We used to basically have to push the bike down to pit lane. I remember my dad coming running in the truck like, what are you doing, hurry up, like bikes are on track now. And I could literally hear Moto3s pulling out of pit lane. So I ran down like late for the session, and I was thinking, oh my god, Mark's going to give me an absolute balking here. I'll just put my helmet on and not speak to anyone and go. And I qualified P12. I had like my best qualifying lap I'd ever done. Got on the back of Brad Binder and got a really good lap and finished 12th. And then in the race the next day it was wet, and I was like already kind of overachieved what I thought I was going to do. And the race started, and I was on slicks and just taking way more risk than anyone else, and I ended up, I think I was second or third. End of the first lap I was second or third. I think it was Jonas Folger went away in the lead. I was sitting second or third behind him, and we basically had like a massive gap to P4. I was just taking loads of risk obviously with the slick tyres in the wet, but like gapped the rest of the field. And I was on for a podium until about 5 laps to go. We had an electrical issue and the bike cut out, and I managed to get it turned ignition off, back on, fired up, and rode round. By that point I finished 15th, but it kind of showed to everyone that actually there's something there, and that instantly after that opened a few doors for going Grand Prix the year after.
Because who was the first?
See, it's amazing how you follow Brad Binder for 5 minutes and then you're suddenly good on Chasin The Racin. You know what I mean? That is bad. I tell you what, like, sorry, different side note, but please tell me you've seen that MotoGP race.
Oh, incredible.
You know, when they all, I could watch that again and again and again. Where was it? Austria?
Oh, I didn't realise what you were sort of saying there.
Oh, sorry, like, no, because Brad Binder, it was just like, off you go, and he just kept going and going and going, and everyone on wets was falling off. Like, Marquez is trying to close the gap on these. Power of Brad Binder, you see. Just in 2 seconds, I'm just not pulling in. Go for it, man.
Am I right in thinking that Brno's where you won your first Grand Prix?
Yeah. So fast forward a few years, like first full season in Grand Prix was like.
Which team was that with again? Was it the German team?
Yeah,
wasn't
Racing Team Germany.
Yeah.
So I actually done end of 2012. We had signed a deal to go and race World Championship the year after, and then it was Alexei Masbu basically broke his femur with like 5 rounds to go, and we were in I can't remember if it was Albacete or something like that, and we got a phone call to say like there's an injured rider, do you want to replace them? And the next round was in Japan. So me, my dad and Mark Keane were like, yeah, let's go, what bike are we going to ride? And they're like, oh well, like I've been riding it was an FTR KTM at the time. Mark had basically made his own design, and we wanted to ride our chassis. So literally, you can imagine, we broke a bike down minus the engine because you had to use an engine, filled 3 suitcases with a chassis, with an engine, with a loom, with everything, swing arm, and basically flew to Japan with these suitcases with a motorbike inside, and built a bike up and went racing for the next 5 rounds. So it was quite a funny story.
Oh, so you actually rode Mark's chassis?
Mark's chassis, yeah.
Ah, right.
Where do you begin with asking airport security about that?
Well, you can check it. Do you check it as sports equipment, not just as in the hold?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Oh God, that'd be an interesting question. That at some point, you 3 madmen just went. Let's just
but that
disassemble the bike.
There's pictures of us in Mark's living room. We're all scratching our heads, like suitcases everywhere, bubble wrap everywhere, and we're like, how on earth are we going to fit this in here?
Yeah. But it's mad to think that at Grand Prix level, you flew a motorbike in pieces to Japan and then built it with whatever engine they had when you got there.
Yeah, that was cool stories. We done Japan. It was Japan, Australia, Malaysia, and Valencia. Though I think there was a 5th one. Can't remember what the 5th one was, but yeah, that was the
class.
How did you get on in Japan? Like, after all that how did you get on?
Yeah, I need to go back and look at the results, but I remember like we were battling in kind of where we finished off in Brno. We were kind of like that 10th to 16th kind of position. That was where we were at, but it was a big eye opener, like being only in Europe, racing in Europe, to then turning up all these new tracks, trying to learn the track, and at full-time Grand Prix, it was hard going, but what an experience, absolutely incredible.
Do you think about how many millions it costs to transport the MotoGP circus around the world?
And
these 3 lads. No, it is a circus, isn't it? I call every race, it doesn't matter if you're car, bikes, unicycles, doesn't matter, it's a circus, isn't it?
100%.
We pack up, we move to the next one.
Yeah.
We set up camp, we go. It's a circus. It's literally a circus.
Can you imagine checking a factory Ducati into a Ryanair flight though?
That's what I mean. Like, these 3 have just somehow discovered, made it the cheapest sport in the world. Right, what we'll do is we'll just post engines in a box around each circuit, and then we'll just carry the bike with us.
Mad. So what were they? Because were they riding Mahindras at the time?
Honda. It was a Honda engine at the time.
Right, okay.
Honda engine. It was a geotechnology Honda. That's what it was. So it wasn't the factory bike. It was like the kind of what you call the satellite Honda at the time.
But which was basically a RS125 Honda frame, wasn't it? The first one.
Yeah, exactly. So we had like an FTR Honda frame that was before the evolution that Mark put a KTM in that chassis.
Right.
So it was Mark's chassis with their engine. So it was pretty cool. The only thing was I wouldn't have been experienced enough to like turning up to all these tracks to really be like, we need to do this, like what direction to go.
Yeah.
And then we had nobody to work with to see their data or check what they were doing, because we were literally the only one on the chassis. And I genuinely think to this day it was probably the best chassis package probably out there, but we just never had the information or data to actually make it work. So
how did that go down with that team? Did it like, I want to come and ride, but I'm bringing my own bike? Like, how did that work?
And I wasn't involved in the negotiations. I have no idea.
How do you imagine it went?
That was a Keeney special.
I don't know. There were some quirky people in the team, so it could have been. I'm not sure. But I mean, the results were decent enough, so I think they quite quickly just left us to it. So and at that time as well, it was obviously Mark then came as crew chief. My dad was there as mechanic, so we literally just kind of came and took over our little corner of the box.
That's cool.
It was a cool setup.
And you stayed with those guys for the following year.
Yeah,
full first season.
Stayed with them. On paper, it was for like 4 years, but it technically wasn't, because it was completely different people, different owner, different management, everything. Yeah, so it was always Racing Team Germany, but from 13 to 16 it was like Hondas for 3 years and then the Peugeot for 16, but it changed hands so many times that it was more or less a new team each year.
And was the Peugeot thing, was that a Mahindra?
It was a Mahindra.
Yeah.
Literally Mahindra.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, different.
And is that what you won your first race on?
First race on? Yeah, which is quite funny.
And Mark was working with you then, wasn't he?
He was my crew chief that year. Yeah.
So, but he'd gone away a bit. You weren't working with him.
No, so then 2013, Mark obviously still ran his own team, so he came back and was doing his own thing in Spanish Championship and still involved. I can't remember exactly, but I think he was still in British Championship as well. And 13, it was my dad actually came and was my full-time mechanic, and that was when I was that was when I was like, I'll fast forward to that, but whenever things weren't going right, obviously he was one prepping the bike with another guy, and I was complaining about the bike, like, oh, it's not doing this or it's not doing that, and he was like, well, it's nothing we're doing, the bike's fine. You just need to ride
That's
it.
class.
I'm like, yeah, I know. And then my crew chief he would like complain to me about not doing something correct, and obviously you know what it's like. I'm like, well, I don't like the way but the bike's set up, and he's like, well, you're just not riding it properly. And my dad would generally stick up with the crew chief and be like, well, he's got experience, you just need to listen to him. You know, that way you just want a little bit of support. And I'm like,
it's like, you know, it's like, obviously your dad's left with, what was your dad doing at the beginning?
So
like,
he's got his own company, he's a haulage contractor, so like between sessions he's on the phone trying to like tell people where to go, and like even to this day he's just a workaholic. So
he was flying around the world with you, a mechanic on a bike and running a haulage firm.
Literally, yeah. And the team at the time, they were struggling like for budget. So my first year in Grand Prix, the Racing Steps Foundation basically funded all my travel, and the team were struggling for money. So my dad said, look, I'll come and work for you and I'll do it like basically for free. And they were expecting to pay him a salary, but he said, no, just pay my travel. Like I'm willing to take the hit. I'll come and work for you, but like you pay my travel type thing. And the guy that was there, basically he's more or less screwed us over. So he got my dad to pay for all his travel for the whole year, then got to the end of the season, then he disappeared, and we basically had to like fund all my dad's travel to work for the team. So it was like,
it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you try and help someone and you just get screwed over. So that was how it worked. He worked for a whole year and paid for it, which was pretty sad. So the year after,
it's still probably the cheapest year in racing he'll have ever had.
Yeah.
In all fairness,
exactly. So the year after, obviously then like things moved on quite a bit, and I didn't have the races. The racing steps were still with me, like supporting me with my training and things like that, but we weren't needing to bring any budget to the team. So my dad was basically back home working and just trying to travel to whatever races he could. So things moved on from that point.
I tell you what, I must ask, what was your mother thinking of all this? 13, who stepped off across it, and then, okay, I'm just going to fly into Japan, you know, with a suitcase, MotoGP, and then we're going to go to the next one and sign for teams. So, how was your mum taking all this?
I don't know, to be honest. She always just, same as my dad, always just supported me fully. Was always just like behind me, and like they used to always say to me, as long as you're enjoying it, and they used to always like double and triple check with me, and like, are you actually enjoying it? Are you sure you're enjoying it? And I don't know, they were just fully behind me and wanted to let me live whatever dream I was trying to chase.
At what point did the seriousness for you change? You know, you're like, next challenge, you know, like when you were that, let's skip the teens, let's go straight into the deep end. And then you went up again, and then you went up again, and went up again. And what part of the timeline you went, oh shit, you know, this is shit or bust?
Yeah.
When was that in your career?
I think that started in 2010, so the first year with Mark and 125s, because at the time it was like, I never wanted to, 2009 when I wasn't winning races and I wasn't at the front, it really annoyed me, and I obviously had moments of like, am I good enough, am I fast enough, like are we just spending a load of money here for absolutely no reason to like go racing and run about in 15s? Nobody wants to do that, do they? And then 2010, all of a sudden jumping on like the best bike and the best team, I'm like, okay, I have to win races now, otherwise I'm not going to continue.
Yes, yeah.
And then the same when I went to Racing Steps, I went to Spanish Championship, you had that exact same thing over again, because all of a sudden the level and the intensity amplifies massively. So I was like, am I good enough, am I fast enough, whatever. But there was some really good guys there. Like at the time there was Alex Rins, there was Alex Marquez, there was Oliveira, some like proper talent,
big names there.
Yeah. And the podiums I did have, I remember looking back, I was shared the podium with Alex Marquez and Bagnaia and like some really good guys. So like you never know what they're going to become though, do you? Like to me, Bagnaia was just a young Italian kid. Like Marquez, you're a bit like, okay, his brother's doing well at the minute, and he wasn't who he is at right now either, so you didn't really know just how good these guys were. But they were the guys that were always at the front and you're always using as a reference. So it was like difficult to know just how fast you were. But when they then stepped up to Grand Prix and all of a sudden they're winning, you're like, oh, well, I was on the podium with him and now he's winning Grand Prix. So like you kind of opened my eyes to be like, okay, maybe I can be fast enough. So I think.
What was winning your first Grand Prix? Like I remember watching that race. It was a wet race, wasn't it?
Wet race, and again Brad Binder. So it was wet. I was on a Peugeot, a Mahindra, and we turned up. There's a hill in Brno called Horsepower Hill, and my thing had no horsepower, so we're like, we're screwed here. Literally, we'd went into the weekend like, we're screwed. We're going to really struggle here. And then we seen the weather. It was like, it's going to rain, and we knew the chassis was like one of the best chassis out there. It rained for morning warm-up, and there's a picture. It does not many things you're like, oh, that was a really good day, but this one picture does make me smile. It was like 3 laps into morning warm-up, and I've got like 4-second gap on P2. It was Mark Keane that posted it. He was like, oh, look at this. Like that was when I knew today was going to be a good day, because that gaps like that just never happen, do they?
Not at that level.
So I can't remember where I qualified. I was like quite far down the field, not very good in the dry, obviously, and then the rain came. Brad was leading the race. Me and Brad basically checked out from the rest of the field, and I was pretty calm the whole race. I was like feeling okay, thinking as long as I can tag on to Brad, I'll probably have a good race today. I never really thought I'll try passing him or I'll try beating him or whatever. I was like, if I'm in a position to, I'll make a lunge in the last lap, but I wasn't really sure how the race was going to pan out. And about 10 laps from the end of the race, halfway through turn 1, Brad flicked himself, and I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? Now I need to lead. I've just been following. I've literally just been following his wheel. And I remember coming round and looking at the pit board for the first lap, and I was like, right, I've got a second gap to the guy behind me. Just keep my head down. So that went to like 1.1, 1.2, whatever. And then about 3 laps from the end of the race, I had a massive high side coming onto Horsepower Hill. Actually, there's a picture of it. I've got like my feet are way above my head. I've basically got my hands doing like a handstand on the bars, and both wheels are off the ground, so it's like snapped and like kicked and basically tried to throw me off. And I've looked over my shoulder to expect like a group of guys coming, and there was nobody there. I was thinking, where have they all gone? So the next 2 laps, like honestly the longest laps of my career, finished the race, and then I realised because it was heavy rain, the 1.1, 1.2 was actually like 11 seconds, 12 seconds. I was pulling a bigger gap out and nearly crashed because I thought they were literally on my wheels. So it was quite a funny story. And
mad.
At what point were they tempted to put on the pit board? Like
a slow down.
No, but
So yeah, that was the first one. The rest of the year was a little bit challenging because again we went back to normality. Like we weren't winning races. We weren't on the podium. We were calling it the Mahindra Cup at the time, and again had really good riders. There was myself, Bagnaia, Jorge Martin.
Just average riders then.
but you didn't know at the time. You didn't know like what they were going to do, and they were all the guys that were on Mahindras, and like my target every week was to try and beat them. That was like, if we can be first Mahindra across the line, then we've done a good job. And like places like Mazzano, I think I was top Mahindra, but I was P12, and it's like you can't be excited about P12, can you? But I'm still first one of this type of bike, so
yes,
it was funny times looking back.
I remember seeing on social media a photo of Rossi congratulating you.
Yeah.
In the paddock. That would have after the Bruno win.
After that,
just thinking like, it's fucking cool, isn't it? That is cool.
It was things like that. Like looking back, were obviously like growing up, he was the guy it was him and Max Biaggi were the 2 guys that were. Yeah. When I eventually started following road racing,
that's the interesting thing, because you didn't follow it from a young age. So argumentatively, you probably weren't starstruck. Is that a fair point?
No, I definitely was, because
by that time you knew.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I didn't follow bike racing, I still knew who like the top guys were. Like
everyone knows Rossi, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they don't know what motorcycle racing is, everyone's heard the name Valentino Rossi, haven't they? So
so it was used to be Rossi and Biaggi. They were the two favourites back then. So that was really cool. And off the back of it, I managed to get an invite to the ranch and go and went and rode the 100-kilometre race there. So it was like incredible, absolutely incredible. Yeah, good memories looking back.
What would you say and there's still loads to cover in your Grand Prix career, but what would you say your best, obviously your first win is great, but like what's your best standout memory in your whole Grand Prix career?
Off or on the track? In fact, on the track. On the track and off the track. Obviously, you're talking about like meeting Marquez and having a bit Rossi and having a bit of crack and stuff like that. But 2 stories: best on track moment, best off track. The off track has to be good, like in a nightclub or something like that. So it has to be something gnarly.
It's hard to say. Like, it's hard to pinpoint best moment because I think it was drawn out over a lot of years, obviously, and there's different moments that were really special to me for different reasons. First Grand Prix win, like that's got to be one of the. It's up there 100%. Like that was, and it came at an unexpected time as well. So that was really special. My last win was really special because it kind of came at an unexpected time as well, because I'd broke my back at the start of the year and didn't have a contract for the next year. I didn't know where I was going, so that was really special. But I'll come back to those questions if that's all right, 'cause I can't think off the top of my head. I can't pinpoint.
We are going to hold you to it though. We are going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
That's a must.
When you're on the subject of contracts and stuff, so you obviously did quite a stint in Moto3 and were a regular front runner, did the British talent team and that was around and stuff like that, and then with Petronas in the later years. There was a period of time where like Moto3 riders were getting offered to go straight to Grand Prix and big moves and stuff like that, and was there ever an offer like that for you to either go to Grand Prix or Moto2 even that you didn't take, and you maybe look back and think, I wish I had, like, coulda, woulda, shoulda sort of thing?
There was a couple of different things, a few things that kind of fell through. It's one of them things that's so cutthroat, like you can have an offer on the table and then it disappears overnight.
Yeah.
There was 2 years basically that I should have went to Moto2. And it was 2017, so that was the first year with the British talent team, and it came so early in the year. So the British talent team was a funny one. Basically, I got given that opportunity, and it was a great opportunity, but at the same time I was told, like, that's what you're doing.
If you want to ride in Grand Prix, that's where you go.
That's where you're going, type thing. And there was nothing negative about that. It was great. It was like I came from a Peugeot, I was going to a factory Honda with great support, with like everything was good about it. There was no negatives at all. And instantly started getting results. So like round 1 I was P2, round 2 I had pole position, again P2, like we were consistent and good. And after round 2 I got my first offer for Moto2, and it was from a completely different team altogether. And I remember going and basically saying to the team owner or manager at the time, look, I've got an offer from Moto2, I just want to let you know, like, I'm going to take it because like, why not? Like, after round 2, I feel like it'll make me be able to ride better for the rest of the season, knowing that I've got that security. And I was basically, they had a plan. So Dorna had a plan that they wanted to create, with the British Talent Cup coming in, they wanted to create a platform that the riders would go from there to Moto3, and then they had plans to make a Moto2 team. And he basically told me what the plan was and said, we're going to create a Moto2 team probably next year, but if it's not next year, we'll give you 1 more year in Moto3 and then you'll step up. So we're going to keep you, basically. We want to keep you, and that's what we're going to do. So it essentially blocked me from taking that contract, and then it got to Malaysia at the end of the year, and that all fell through. Basically, politically, it fell through. So
the British talent team thing.
The whole plan, I think they realised that the timeline from taking someone from British Talent Cup straight to Grand Prix, like they needed a stepping stone in terms of like Junior World Championship or whatever, and they kind of realised the timeline wasn't working as they'd planned, and also they were trying to get a sponsor on board that I think kind of fell through as well. So the funding all of a sudden dropped, and they were just like, no, that's enough, and they just basically cut all ties at the end of the year.
Did Dorna fully fund that at that point then? Because there wasn't any sponsors, was there?
Fully by Dorna, yeah.
Do you mind us, totally fine if you don't want to answer this question, do you mind us asking who the offer was from for Moto2?
Yeah, at the time it was AGR.
Oh, right, okay.
AGR straight away, and there was also talks with American Racing. So there was two different teams. To be fair, there was talks with a lot of teams. There was 3 or 4 teams that I was talking with, but the actual offer on the table was AGR. And at the time, again, Mark Keane was crew chief in that team for Maria Herrera, so I guess he would have had some kind of
influence.
Yeah.
So who got that right then?
The team, so they kind of changed hands. To be honest, I can't remember which route it went, but this slot changed to like another sponsor, and it was like, I think Folger was in there for a while. I can't remember what direction they went. I never paid too much attention.
I bet you didn't, God love you. But I know it's amazing how quickly it turns, isn't it? It's like, right, well, there's a no there, change this, change that. That is insane how quick that turns.
So the next year, what did you do? Grand Prix in Moto3 the next year?
The year after that, I went to CIP on a KTM. And I remember, it sounds so disrespectful, but I remember being told, like, oh, you're not going to be with us anymore next year, but all the doors were closed. Basically, there was no teams left. There was no one else in the paddock.
Shit.
So I'm like, oh, that's the end of the line. Then there's nowhere to go. And Alberto Puig said to me, what to do is try and have a good weekend this weekend. If you get some results, we'll see if anything will, like, any opportunities will come up for you. And I'm like, I've had a good year. Like, it's been my best year to date. And now he's like putting this pressure on me, like, try and have a good result and we'll see what we can do. So I remember walking over, I was in Malaysia. I don't know what age I would have been at the time, but walked over to, there's 2 paddocks there, walked over to the second paddock. He told me that, like, basically next year's not going to happen. I remember walking back, like, I probably would have been 18 or so at the time, just greeting my eyes out, crying the whole way back to the paddock, like, oh, that's the end of the line then, I'm not going to be racing next year type thing. But they always had a second space with like 2 or 3 teams that they would fund, and they would put riders in. And although they didn't fund it, they made the door stay open at CIP, and let me go to CIP the year after. So I did get another opportunity, but at the time it was not the best team. It was kind of they didn't have any results, they didn't have any podiums, they were kind of one of the lower down teams, so it felt a bit like a backward step. But I think it made me as a rider in some ways, because I had to work so hard at it. The KTM wasn't really the bike to be on at the time. The team were good, but they didn't have that much experience, and I don't know, it was a hard year, but it made me really dig in and really dig deep to get results, and had a couple of podiums again with the KTM on that team. And funnily enough, it was the year of my whole racing career. It was the earliest I ever signed a contract. I signed with Petronas in Sachsenring, which was like middle of the season. So it was like the earliest I'd ever signed a deal. So I think the hard work that year really paid off moving forward.
Did that take all the pressure off you, having such an early signing?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you rode better?
100%. I do understand, but for me, if you can have like some kind of something signed or something in place sooner, like the teams that try and string you out till the end of the year or the last race and put it all down to like, oh, whatever championship position you finish is like a yes or no, like that's the worst thing ever, because it just makes you ride worse if you're like,
does it affect their funding where the rider finishes in the championship?
I don't think so. No,
so
I think
just use it as a tool.
I think if they get a finish, like if the rider actually finishes, makes a difference, but in a race, in an individual race, but not really to do with
overall championship
or not a massive amount anyway, unless they're top 3.
That is
was Dorna showing a lot of interest of keeping a British rider? Like you personally, it was a bit like, were they constantly in chats with you going, we still need to hear?
They were and they weren't. They were because they wanted a British rider, but they also wanted a British rider to be in Moto3, and I was kind of the only person that fitted it at the time. So it was like, for them, they already had a Brit in Moto2 because Sam was there, and then later down the line Jake was there as well. So for them it made more sense to try and keep me Moto3. So it was like, it was helping me because they set up the British team, which I was really grateful for and had a great opportunity, but then at the same time it was a negative because they didn't actually want me to step up. So it was a bit of a stuck in the middle like type thing.
Because this, like, we've actually got a cracking question, one of our patrons. I'm not being rude, I'm actually looking for like, obviously we got like, it would be like this.
Thought you were getting bored there on Instagram.
I just had a nap, mate. Just, you know them naps that you have before you get going. That's exactly how we are. But it's from Michael Harrison. Do you think British riders get a fair crack at World Championship level?
It's a tough question. I mean, it's a really tough question because I mean, I was there for a long time, 10 full seasons in the paddock. Like, I'm forever grateful for that, and I've loved every moment of it. And I had some great opportunities, like I really did. But there was definitely years where I knew the bike was underperforming compared to where it should have been. I knew I didn't have the same material as my teammate or whatever. A lot of it comes down to funding. Like, a lot of it really does come down to funding. I was never in a position to bring money to a team, and that instantly puts you in a place where you don't really have a leg to stand on, because the team are like, well, this guy's paying us like 250 grand, you're not paying us anything, so why are we going to go and give you like this new material, this new part or whatever? And it's not always like that, but that ultimately is the case. It comes down to funding. So it's not fair to say Brits don't get a fair crack at it, but at the same time, there is certain individuals, not nationality dependent, there's certain individuals that maybe get a better opportunity. I would say.
Because obviously, like when you think about like the attack, like it's more Dorna is a Spanish. Am I right in saying that the Spanish army?
Yeah.
Spanish, obviously, you look after your own, don't you? That's not an unfair comment.
Well, it's not anymore. It's American technically now.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
I don't think it's actually switched over yet, though, has it?
It hasn't actually been done.
Yeah,
Is this some
but-
like EU regulation bollocks or something? That's
It's gonna
old
happen
now.
now.
There's so much more to talk about with your career, but I feel like we want to jump a gun. Do you think there's going to be big differences with the Americans taking over?
Well, I've already heard like at the Spanish races, there's no guests allowed in the paddock, things like that.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Right.
Even like pre-season there. So I hadn't stepped foot back in the paddock since the end of 22 when I done my last race there.
Yeah.
And just this year I went to a pre-season test, which normally like you just turn up and you walk straight in. And I messaged one of my best mates actually. I messaged him and I was like, can I get a couple of passes? Me and my mate are here. And he was like, no, sorry, there's no guests allowed. I'm like,
Shut up,
fucking
man.
kidding. It's a Moto2, Moto3 test. He's like, yep, new regulations, any Spanish round, no guests allowed.
Why just the Spanish rounds? Just
I don't know. Not sure.
wow.
Not sure.
What even the races? So you can't have.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know if they're gonna follow through with it or not, but yeah, Spanish rounds, they're trying to make it no guests allowed in the paddock. They do get busy. They get extremely busy.
Really?
It's just an insurance thing. So
It's probably about selling tickets.
It started to go like it started to turn like F1. I remember like going back 10 years ago. There used to be travel companies, and instead of giving you like just straight cash for sponsorship, they would say like, we'll do a deal with you where like you give us 10 guest passes for the year, and we'll give you like say 250 quid a pass or whatever. And that went up and up and up and up to the point like for the Italian rounds or whatever, you could get up to like $2,000 a pass for one guest pass for one weekend. But then with that, it gets so hard to actually get passes. So you used to get like 30 a year, and then like my last couple of years I'll get like 5, and I was like, is that 5 a weekend? Like, no, 5 a season. What am I meant to do with that? Like 5 people can come to one race.
You got your mum, your dad, your 2 sisters.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
that's one hell of a loyal friend. Number 5.
It just got harder and harder to get in. So, and then Dorna have set up their own like hospitality experience now. So I guess they're trying to save it that if you want to get in, you pay, but you come through us.
Right. Is that from the American outbuy?
I'm not sure. Honestly,
that's
I'm not
interesting. Because things are going to change. Someone's taking this new management at the helm.
Yeah.
Things are going to change. That will be interesting.
Yeah. So I've remembered my worst experience.
Go.
So worst.
I love that.
I wondered what you meant there. I was like, all right, okay.
I mean, it's been my clogs have been turning. I was like, well, what's the worst experience? The worst experience was left
Like we asked best, by the way. We did ask best, but let's go worse.
Worst experience was I left Argentina and I was flying from Argentina. Well, first of all, on that trip actually, I'm trying to think if it was the same year or not. 2 stories from Argentina. One was going back to the old Irish guy with McWilliams. He then in 2017 with the British talent team came on as a rider coach. So me and Jeremy got really close that year. He was basically with me every round and helped me massively through my year. It was his birthday in Argentina. I remember going out for dinner with him. I was like on Google trying to find where the best restaurant was. Found a steak restaurant. Took him there, and like it was middle of nowhere. Like we were where the track, like as if nobody had been there in the last 5 years or whatever. And got a couple of steaks and cut straight into the middle of it to see how well it was cooked, and there was live maggots in the middle of the meat. So that wasn't the worst experience. That was just a little extra added in there. But anyway, on the way home, literally they booked me the shittest airline I'd ever been on. Like it was a 13-hour flight from Buenos Aires to Madrid, and it was like your budget airline. So it was like a Ryanair basically for 13 hours. Like no TVs, no nothing. If you wanted like food, you paid for it. If you wanted drink, you paid for it. And they'd crammed us all in as well. So I got on the flight, sat down, and it was like there was 2 aisles, and I was at the very, very back of the plane, like sat against the window. And this one guy came and sat beside me, and the poor guy, like I'm guessing he must have been homeless or whatever, but he stunk. He was like the smelliest guy. And so I took my hoodie off, turned it around, like sat down, pulled my hood up like over my face just to kind of stop the smell. Got about half hour into the flight and I heard a little bit of chaos, so I was like pulled my hood down, was looking, wondering what happened, and the woman that was sat like in front of me, like on the aisle, she'd fallen asleep and the guy beside her. He was trying to wake her up. Long story short, she'd basically died.
Shut up, man.
Sat on the plane, she'd died. And
from the smell of the guy.
Who knows? So
Jesus Christ.
I've about, I don't know, 10 minutes went by. They'd like tried to kind of check her over. I was surprised at how long it took for anyone to actually check her. They put her in the aisle and people are walking to the toilet and like just
Excuse me, pet.
yeah, literally it was pretty. I was definitely in shock. And so they were like, "Oh, sorry, sir, do you mind just going to the back of the plane? Like, we've got something to deal with here." And I was like, "Yeah, you definitely do, yeah." So went to the back of the plane. They were like, "Okay, you can go back to your seat now." And I'm like, "Fuck!" I was like thinking they were going to upgrade me to business or whatever. We're back to my seat.
Sorry.
And then the smelly guy came, sat down beside me. And then I'm like, "Where have they put the body?" And they got the guy that was sitting beside her to basically go somewhere else. And they put her in feet first on the floor, and then like slumped the top half of the body on the chair, and then just put a blanket over her.
Shut
So
up, man.
I went from like an hour into my 13-hour flight, I went from sitting with a smelly guy beside me to a smelly guy beside me and a dead body at my feet for 12 hours.
Holy shit.
Honestly,
That is
I was in
horrendous.
so much shock. I was like, looking back now, I'm like, why didn't you just say, "No, I'm not sitting here, I want to move," and like go to business or whatever? But I didn't. I just sat there in shock for like 12 hours. So
Jesus Christ.
You'd
that's
think they would have to
sketchy.
emergency land.
I know.
I feel like we need to get a pilot on the next episode, you know, just to go,
There must
what would
be some-
happen if someone died on your
Yeah.
flight?
There must be some sort of protocol for that.
You know the blankets you get? I've never like slept on one of them since
I
because
bet.
it's literally just covered her with like 2 or 3 blankets. I'm like, fuck, I'm never touching them again.
Jesus
So,
Christ, that is scary. That.
yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure it was 2017, maybe
That's
18, but yeah,
Not
that
long
was,
ago then.
Yeah, that was my worst experience by far.
Have you figured out your... I don't think you can pull out your best experience straight after that one. Not a
I'll
chance.
save that one for a bit.
Save that one for the end. Just on the topic of long haul flights and racing far away, sorry,
No, okay.
it's because I've gone right next to that. Isn't it?
It's all good.
I wanted to just call out this question from Travis McClurg. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, but he's just saying that he was in Malaysia in the grandstand on the back straight when you won from 15th,
Oh yeah.
and basically just like it's not even a question. He's just saying how delighted he was and that he was screaming John McPhee like a football chant in the crowds like around all these Malaysians and stuff. So he's just saying like a huge
That's
congratulations.
cool. Thank
for
you
that.
very much.
You know when you got to MotoGP level? Like Moto3 level?
Yeah.
Like, when you came home, were things a little different? At all?
Nah, not at all. Honestly, no, nothing really changed.
He's so far north they don't have TVs
No, but
to
that's,
watch what he did.
I tell you what, I remember it was Michael Rutter saying that, him like, you know, he can go around Birmingham and that, and like Black Country, and just no problem whatsoever, and doesn't get recognised.
Yeah,
But then you'll go to Northern Ireland,
yeah.
and people will walk across the street to go see Michael Rutter. You know what I mean? If you went to Northern Ireland, it's like the home of motorcycle racing. You know,
Yeah.
it's incredible where certain atmospheres just drag. It's like you coming home from your first Moto3 race, you know,
Yeah,
like you were
I think-
literally top of the world at this point.
I don't know what it is like. It's obviously like the British Grand Prix, yeah, massively different. Like over the
Class.
years, like first couple of years, there was a few people there, and later down the line, there was a lot more people coming to see you. And then certain races, it was definitely busier, and I don't know, it just kind of became normal in the paddock. But actually at home, not so much changed. I don't think. I kind of know everyone. I mean, I come from a small town, so it's not like I more or less knew everyone, not everyone, but you kind
Yeah,
of
you know
know.
your people.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up there, I went to school there. I've got all my mates are still from there, so it was kind of just the normal thing. Nothing changed at home.
Because you're like, you're such a modest lad. I can just imagine you just pulling, like, you know, going to the bar when you do go home and going, you know, been far? Nah, not really. Not really. Just been in Japan with my suitcase with motorcycling. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, though? It's,
I love
Like-
that story.
that is class, though, isn't it? You know, like, going round, like, beach racing
yeah.
to...
Yeah.
Have you not pinched yourself yet?
I think
class,
I
man.
definitely have. After the GP stage finished, it was like kind of registered like what just happened the last 10, 12 years, just been a whirlwind. Absolutely amazing. Like I loved every second of it, and what an experience. But it really went literally went like
Yeah.
that. It was fast. Yeah.
Did you ever get to have a go on a Moto2 bike? I know that
Yeah.
opportunity. You did.
Yeah, I rode. So the weekend, what would that have been? 2020 was it? I think it was 2020. The COVID year, basically. Jake had gone. He's got an opportunity to step up to MotoGP, and we were in the same team in Petronas at the time.
Yes,
And I jumped on his Moto2 for the weekend. Never rode one before. Never.
Was that at Silverstone?
Aragon.
No, Aragon, yeah.
Aragon.
Oh, did you race Moto2?
Yeah, raced at
I
Aragon.
don't remember that.
Yeah, and I was looking at it just a few days ago. Somebody had brought the results up, and obviously Manuel Gonzalez has just won his first Moto2 ride, for Moto2 race, sorry. And that weekend he was quite new to it as well. So there's me, him, and Xavi Cardaluz with the three like wild cards as such, and it was us three battling it out, and I'd managed to beat him in qualifying. So it was. I had a really good experience, and obviously know my way around Aragon, but never riding the bike and straight in at FP1 was pretty tough. And then, but qualifying, like day 2, like something kind of clicked, and I actually got going quite good. So Sam Lowe's was on pole that day. He'd done a new lap record that was 0.3 faster than the old lap record, and I was 1.6 off Sam. So I was like, I'm only 1.3 off the original lap record. Like that was a good
class.
Good day. When it came to actual racing, like I could put a lap together, but then trying to string 22 together was pretty tough. We were battling. I think I don't know where we finished, like 40 seconds behind the leader or something. But
First jump in, it
was a really good experience.
Oh,
go.
I was just going to say, obviously, like lots of highlights, lots of amazing experiences traveling the world in MotoGP, and we've talked a bit about how you felt when you first got the opportunity to go there. And sorry to be an arsehole by asking you this question.
It's going to be good.
But how did you feel when you realised there wasn't an opportunity to stay? Because you talked a little bit about thinking it was going to happen and how upset that made you, but when you realised with Petronas it wasn't going to go on and there wasn't another opportunity for you, how did you feel, and how did you start to plan your next step?
It kind of came at like different stages. So second stage was, so I was with Petronas 3 years, and like this second year I signed with them, I signed a 2-year deal, and the deal was 1 year Moto3, 1 year Moto2. So that was when we touched base earlier when I said there was 2 years I should have went. I'll just go through it very quickly. Basically the contract was like, if I was top 3 in the championship by summer break, I automatically renewed, and I fulfilled that. And it was politics basically. It never happened. I never got the opportunity to actually do it. So that was one stage when I was like, this Moto2 thing, I'm getting too old. I knew I was getting too old. That was kind of my last opportunity to actually take the step.
Yeah.
And then, so I stayed another year with them. Actually, I've got a funny story. That weekend, I might as well tell it.
Yeah,
so
you
crack on.
It was during, obviously COVID had just kind of started to really get serious, and I was in Andorra at the time. I'd moved out there in 2018, so I was only in Andorra.
We know your game.
So I was in.
Well, what if we could? Don't worry.
in Andorra, and nobody in the paddock had it. It was at the stage where like nobody really had COVID, but everyone was starting to worry about it. And Jorge Martin had tested positive for COVID, and he was the first one, so everyone was talking about it. And literally the next morning, I got my test result back. So we had to test before we went into every race. I don't know why we were classed as essential workers. That's bizarre, isn't it? But we used to still get to travel and go racing. So I tested positive, and I was like, shit, like, feel fine. What's going on here? So immediately, like half an hour after I got my result through, like somebody from the Andorran government phoned me and was like, you need to go home, like lock yourself in your house, let us know, like we'll send you a list of what groceries you want, we'll bring them to your door, like don't leave your house, we have to do full track and trace. And like they were in the middle of the phone call, and I hung up the phone. I'm like, fuck me, I'm not gonna be able to race this weekend. And that was literally, that weekend was the decider on whether I was going to be top 3 in the championship or not. So there was a lot on the line. It was like in my head, my whole future depended on that one weekend. And this is like, that was on a Tuesday afternoon I got the phone call. So jumped in my car and drove straight out the border. I'm like, I'm not staying here. Drove straight into Spain, left Andorra, which could have got me in a lot of trouble at the time. I probably shouldn't have done it. Went to another lab. There was one on the way to Barcelona. Got another test because I'm like, I feel fine. I'd done 2 rapid tests before I left Andorra, and they were both negative. So I'm like, maybe it's a false positive. Got a test in the way to Barcelona. Went to another lab in Barcelona and got a second test because I was like, they're going to make me have two negatives to a positive. So that night I was like, you can imagine, didn't sleep properly, stressed, booked myself into a hotel in Barcelona. I was meant to be flying the next morning, and I phoned my team and told them, which looking back now was a bit of a stupid thing to do. I should have probably just kept it quiet. And so I told them, and then they immediately told Dorna. I'm like, oh God, here we go. And Alberto Pucci again was like really high up in Dorn at the time, so he 100% knew. And the next morning at like 6 a.m. I got my first email through negative, so I'm like, brilliant, that's me, 1 negative, 1 positive, so like it's kind of 50-50. And I was like, fuck it, I'm getting the flight. So I went to the airport, jumped on the flight, and as I'm walking on the plane, I was literally one of the last people to board. I walk on, and Alberto Pucci is the first guy sat in the front row.
You're joking.
And he literally just stared right through me. I was like, oh God. He didn't even say hi. He just kind of like nodded, and then he knew like what I was doing. So I was like shitting myself the whole way on the flight, like, what am I going to do? So I'm like, if I'm positive now, then he's going to be positive. I was thinking he's going to be positive.
He's going to blame you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is a massive mistake. So as I touched down, my second email came through and it was negative again. So that like really calmed me. I was like, thank God, like I should be negative here, but I'm still going to have to try and dig myself out of this hole and pretend that email came before I got the flight and whatever. So got to the track and gave them the 2 negatives, and they're like, but how are you here? Like, it was only yesterday you tested positive. I was like, yeah, I done more tests straight away and like tried to blag it, so managed to kind of get away with it. And they're like, okay, but you need to do another test now. It's our test, and when that result comes back, it takes 24 hours. When that result comes back, we'll let you in. So I was like, oh God, okay. So I done another.
What day would this be then? So that was Tuesday, so that's Wednesday.
That was Wednesday.
Yeah.
No, was it Wednesday? It must have been, sorry, that must have been Wednesday. And it was then the Thursday. So it was the Thursday I took the test at like whatever time in the morning it was, 8:30 in the morning. And they were like, when's the result going to be? 24 hours. And I was thinking, well, I'm on track at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Yeah, it'll be 24 hours. You're not getting in the paddock until we get the result back. So I'm like, okay. So done the test. I was like, just basically wandering around thinking, am I going to get to ride? Am I not going to get to ride? And 8:30 in the morning on the Thursday, I finally got the result. Okay, you're negative. You can come in the paddock. So ran in the paddock, like got all my stuff together. Didn't have a very good Friday. I can't remember where I finished Saturday.
Because you didn't sleep for the last 2 days,
and
maybe.
Then, like I'm not an emotional person really. Like most people are always like, are you happy? You're not happy? Because I don't show much emotion. If you go back and look on the Sunday I won the race in Misano, how emotional I was at the end of that race. I was like, it was as if I just won the world championship. I was the happiest person alive because everything depended on it. It was like my whole future. Like I didn't know if I was going to get to ride. I won the race, so I secured top 3 in the championship. I was I think I was then second in the championship, and it was impossible to finish back further than 4th for like the next 2 races. So I was like, that's it, done. Like I've won the race, I've got a new contract. Like everything was hunky-dory basically in my head. And then politics got involved in whatever. They weren't able to fulfill the contract. So it was like and I found that out literally 7 days later. So I went from being like the happiest guy alive to like, and the next week I think I finished 15th, same track, Misano back to back, won the race. The next week I was like 15th, and I was just like, yeah, it was a massive high to a massive low.
Was that when Petronas was stopping, or?
No, they continued 1 more year. So in the end, in all honesty, I didn't really want to ride with them for that next year. And it wasn't their fault. It wasn't anyone in Petronas that blocked the move. But I felt it in my head at the time, I was like, they could have done something about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd basically signed 1 rider already. I was meant to be that rider's teammate. And then Dorna had said, no, because we need you to take this rider, and basically put like 3 into 2, sorry. So I was basically, it was the only way through.
Was it a problem for them to get out of that obligation, or did they just weasel the way out of it?
They just basically didn't. I went and tried to find out what I could do about it. I was like, well, I've got a contract there, it's in black and white, and it was a bit like, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. What could you do about it? You know, this contract's a legal binding contract.
It just pays you the money, I guess, and that would be the end of it. But you still got to ride of it.
I basically worried that as a rider, if you're known as a rider that took the team to court, like it's not going to land you in a good position moving forward, is it?
It's wrong, isn't it? It's bullshit, really, because they make such a big deal of it. It just proves it's not worth the paper it's written on.
But at the same time, I'm always a believer, like everything happens for a reason. And then like I went and won more races. So I got another couple of years in the paddock. I won more races and like loads more podiums. So it was like, maybe that was just what was meant to happen, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And was there any other opportunities to progress thereafter?
that year I had a lot of talks with quite a few different teams, but I told them all the same thing, that I've got a 2-year contract, and if I'm top 3 by this race, then I'm staying with Petronas, basically.
So you were
And I was maybe too honest. I was maybe should have just been like, yeah, I'll come and speak to you, but I was a bit like, I like the team, I like the people, I like everything about it, I want to stay where I am. And yeah, whatever. It was one of them things.
That is frustrating, that.
But then, yeah, the next 2 years I had an amazing time and loved it, and loved racing Moto3 style, and there's plenty of guys. It annoyed me a little bit that there was an age gap on Moto3, because there used to be so many guys that would just make their whole career of Moto3 racing. In a way it annoyed me, but then in a way, when my last year of Moto3 came, I couldn't wait just to get out off that bike. I was like, I don't want to race Moto3s anymore. I was
sick of it.
Yeah, honestly I was like sick of, didn't matter how much work you put in, it all came down to a little bit of luck had to be involved, because it was about track position, about slipstream, about tactics. It wasn't just who was the fastest guy on the day.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't care where I go. It doesn't matter whether it's like World Supersport, British Supersport, British Superbikes, whatever. I just want to be in a big bike. I didn't want to be in that championship anymore.
So did you have like a management team at this point, or were you always doing everything like?
Yeah, I did a different. So the first handful of years I had gone back to the Racing Steps Foundation. I had Peter Ball was my manager, and he was great, absolutely great. He was with me for a good handful of years, and then latterly it was Michael Laverty was managing me. Yeah, he was managing me for a few years.
Another Irish fella.
Yeah, again he was absolutely great. But then as he got busier and busier with his own team and all the things that were going on, I kind of just started doing it myself for the last couple of years. So
it was at that point you brokered, you made a decision, right, I want to be out of this paddock. What's the next step? You know, how did you go about doing that? Was it just blindly making phone calls?
Yeah, basically, yeah, made phone calls, messaged people, got numbers. Obviously Michael had loads of contacts, and yeah, basically made contact. And in the end, it came down to Max Biaggi. I was riding for him my last year in Moto3. Had a bit of a shocking season, because I'd done the first round, had a good result. I think it was 5th in Qatar maybe, and then was riding motocross. Told everyone it was supermoto because I wasn't allowed to be riding motocross, but I was riding motocross and broke my back. So that really affected me. Like I went back too soon for a start. I was getting physio. My poor wife was driving me. I was 2 different physios I was going to. I was in one for like 6 hours a day, and then another one for while they were on their lunch break. I'd go to a second one, and I'd done that every single day for like 4 weeks. So she was just literally driving me around Girona, trying to recover as quick as I could. And I jumped back on a bike 5 weeks after breaking my back, but it was too soon. I shouldn't have really been back. I was really struggling for movement and mobility.
What was the extent of the break? Was it like, did you need
didn't need an operation, thankfully.
Right.
I had like so much different input from different doctors. Like one of them told me like 100% you need an operation. The other one told me like no operation, but they were trying to do, there was like this PRP where they basically take the blood and spin it and re-inject it, and it's meant to like speed up the recovery and take down inflammation and all this kind of thing. And he was like, you need that. There was like all different doctors telling me different things. But basically I'd crushed 4 vertebrae, and the 2 in the middle, like looking at it now, they're like half the width and half the height. So I've already went from being small. I think I lost like a couple of mil in my height.
Yeah, early interviews you were like 6'2".
Yeah,
you know, it's a bit like that must have been a hell of a break. I'm joking, man.
So it affected me for the rest of the year, and always really, because I couldn't move properly in the bike. I was struggling for like mobility was the biggest thing. And then the results weren't really coming, and it was quite a hard year. For the last year in Moto3, it was actually quite a hard year. Finished with a bang. I managed to win in Malaysia, which was like the absolute highlight of the year, and probably my highlight of my career as well, getting that last win. And kind of off the back of that, Max Biaggi was a really good guy. He was really good to me, and he set up the World Supersport change. So he basically put me in contact with a guy. It was Vincenzo, his name is, and it was a new team, new bike, new project. And they were like, yeah, we just need a rider. So that was what I done. Went World Supersport racing.
That was on a Kawasaki.
Yeah.
So how big was that challenge? Like leading into that. So you've come from world, literally the highest level you can go.
Yeah.
And going to World Supersport.
Yeah.
Where did you see yourself? Where was your expectations?
Honestly, I was really excited at that stage, because I was like, I'd accepted that the Grand Prix route wasn't going to work for me. and like I said already, that was over like 2 or 3 different instances that I realised that wasn't going to work. And I'd basically had this new vision then, like, okay, I want to race a superbike, whether that's British Superbike or whether that's World Superbike, like that's the route I want to go, and I know the stepping stone for that is Supersport. So it was like a new challenge. It was something fresh for me, and I was absolutely buzzing to go and do it. I got like completely new experience as to from racing altogether, and it was a really cool year. Really enjoyed it.
What about the bike differences? Obviously there's huge differences, but did you actually enjoy going back to a softer chassis, like, or was it like that's a huge difference?
You say going back to, you were never on them, were you?
Never on them, no.
Valid point.
Yeah,
you were never on them.
No, it's true, and
it's been like riding in sand.
Well, I bought myself an R1. So I bought an R1 first of all, and I put Moto2 Dunlops on it. And I remember the first time I rode it, I was like, it just feels like a big sofa. Like I'm riding around, it just feels like the whole thing's moving and flexing, and I'm like,
this is horrible.
I felt like I had a flat tire. It was that way. I'm like riding around like something's not right here. This damping's way too soft, and then it's a big change. Like riding a Moto2, for example. Moto3 is already hard, but Moto2 is like a plank of wood. It's just
really
rock solid. Like you have to, if you try riding around, like if guys always say like, oh, I'm going to get a Moto2 and do track days, I'm like, don't. It is the worst thing in the world to ride unless you're 100% on the limit. You jump on a Supersport bike or like a stock 1000, you get so much feedback and so much information. It's actually nice to ride. These things aren't nice to ride unless you're on the limit. Then you start getting a bit of feedback.
That's interesting. I thought it might have been like softer. The Moto2 compared to the Moto3 being a smaller chassis, under theoretical a lot more tension. The fact that
I think the tires were a big input. So like you put Moto2 tires, Dunlops on a like a superbike type thing or like a stock 1000, and it really stiffens everything up. Like it's a big change. I remember going from the Moto2s to the Pirellis, and it like completely transformed the bike. Some positives, some negatives. They were both different, but the tires, combination of the tires, the chassis, everything they do is just, and the tracks. I've noticed that now. Obviously, training for BSB now, I've been riding a little bit of more kind of UK style tracks, and you get the bumps and the ripples, and a lot of GP tracks you don't get that. So you just want the chassis to be as stiff as possible, type thing. That's the kind of aim they go for.
Classic, can't wait. So I think this is going to lead us perfectly on to this year's big challenge.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's the most excited I've been probably in my whole career. Different timeline. Obviously, from being a kid and getting into Grand Prix was one big excitement, and then racing Grand Prix was exciting. But like, I grew up with like going way back to the beginning with my uncle or with my dad, like going and being fans of BSB or fans of racing, and like. It was kind of what I always looked up to when I was at that young stage of starting to get into road racing. So like my hero was always Steve Islop.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And I remember being a kid, like going around and just always thinking like it's the best thing in the world. Like Steve Islop's here, and he used to take us, me and my mate. We used to go and ask for stickers and autographs and all that kind of thing. And it was when he was riding for Paul Bird at the time, and he took us in and was basically gave us a can of Coke and gave us a knee slider, and I was like, he's an absolute hero. So like ever since then, I've always looked and I've respected everyone in BSB, but I've always really wanted to go back and do that championship. That was something I've always wanted to do. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
So like, obviously you're managing yourself at this point. You just thought, right, I've done that. So you did 1 year at World Supersport.
2 years.
2 years, sorry. 2 years.
Yeah, you had the Triumph.
Yeah. So in both years, so like touching back in World Supersport, again, it was like, had their ups and downs. I always say like there's more bad days in racing than there is good days. Ultimately, every day is a good day because you're racing motorbikes and you're having a great time and you're traveling the world and whatever. So every day is a good day. But in terms of performance, I think there's more negatives than positives. You get the some years you get really good years, but it's never easy. Like my first ever World Supersport race, I was on the podium and I was like, fuck, this is easy. And it was just it was just down to like circumstances. It was like rained on the grid, and I didn't know we had intermediates. I actually didn't know in Supersport that they had an intermediate tire because we'd only ever ran wets or dries. So I stuck with the slicks. I was like, well, it's not wet enough for wets. Everyone else went intermediates, which I was like looking back thinking, what on earth is that they got on the bike? So I get the slicks, and ultimately the slick was what allowed me to ride at the end of the race and get on the podium. And then that team basically ran out of budget, which is normally you'd be like, oh, how did they not manage it better? But I feel really sorry for them because they were amazing people, like really nice people, really passionate, really genuine people, and they just ran out of budget. They were kind of led down the wrong path and told that it would be a lot cheaper than it was. Thankfully, I wasn't cartwheeling the bike, or didn't cartwheel it at all for that matter. So we did manage to save a bit of budget, but they still ran out of budget. So my first year in Supersport stopped early, and then the second year was with the Triumph team, and that kind of went from one end of the scale to the other. Like, they had loads of money, but just had some really tricky people in the box. It was tough. It was hard. I was the last man standing. That kind of says enough. So we started as a team of like, I think it was 14 people. And come like 2/3 into the season, I was the only original guy there in the whole team, including team manager, including crew chief, everyone, riders, everything. I was the last guy standing. So this 24 was a really tricky year, and I wouldn't say I considered retiring, because I definitely didn't, but I considered just stepping away for that year and being like, I've had enough of that. Like, I don't want to be in that environment anymore. I want to go and start something completely new. So when the opportunity came to go BSB, it was like a breath of fresh air for me.
Did you go looking for that opportunity? Yeah. Was it like, I'm gonna look at BSB?
I sat down with Taryn and Taylor McKenzie.
Say no more.
I thought they might add something to this.
Say no more. We can see this story unravelling before us.
Yeah. Definitely putting Taylor's name out there, because if things don't go well, obviously I'll just blame him.
Yeah.
He basically set it up. If things do go well, he's getting no praise whatsoever.
You need to plug his YouTube channel as well. It's so funny.
Yeah,
the stuff he puts up is hilarious.
Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, Taylor made an introduction, and then dealing with Steve and Stuart Hicken has been amazing. The team, I didn't know them. I've never spoke to them before. Know of them, obviously, but they've been so genuine, so passionate, and yeah, really looking forward to working with them.
And they're like, looking back, they're loyal.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to stick with them, they'll put the work in. You know, from the outside looking in, you know, it's like they've stuck with Charlie, they've stuck with they've stuck with all the riders who have wanted to stay.
Yeah.
On that side of things, you know what I mean? They just keep putting the work in.
And that was the thing I basically said. It's like, if I'm going to go racing again next year, because like I was saying, I was just wanting to step back until the right opportunity came up, had to be with an established team. And someone that's got like a bit of consistency there. Like, they've got a good reputation, because for 2 years in a row I'd been the guy that was kind of stepping into a team that was literally just starting out. It was their first year in the paddock, their first year trying to bring it all together, and it was like, that's not for me. Like, in racing, well, you guys know yourselves, but a couple of years, if you have a good years, everything's great. A couple of bad years, and all of a sudden everyone starts to forget about you, and you get yourself down and whatever, and it's not a good place to be. So I wanted something that was going to be. Yeah,
you've kind of done your time of doing new teams and doing that. You know, you're at a different part of your career where like you warrant the kind of something a bit more established.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just checking out I actually took a note of things to. There was something else I wanted to put in there. I've got another funny story.
You are the first guest. You are the best guest we've ever had. You know what I mean?
That's a compliment. That is a compliment.
That is mine. Literally, he's got. I'm making notes. Like, it's. We don't even make notes.
No.
That's incredible. You crack on.
Well,
with
it's
that.
because awesome. There was one thing I shouldn't have looked at my phone there because I didn't want to tell a story, but
please do.
It was actually my wife that was like, you remember, you need to say this. And I'm like, nah, you're okay. It was 2017.
Funny enough, she's outside. That's where Grace went. Step in, tell the story.
So another funny story for you. It was going back to 2017. So that year, Alberto Puig was the team manager, and it was like, you know, well, everyone kind of knows what he's like. I got on great with him. I had a great relationship with him, but he's like straight down the line. There's no bullshit there, and. If you're doing well, like, everything's great, but if you're not, he's pretty hard on you. Come the end of the season in Valencia, I had like pretty much the whole of Oban was there, so they're all on the back straight, and you come out of, I'm trying to think what corner it is now, out at turn 6, so the back straight in Valencia's got like a kink in the middle of it. Earlier in the weekend, I'd come out and a couple of mates were there, and I'd done a stand-up wheelie, and I was wheeling along, and there's a kink, and I was like, I could probably wheelie through there, so I wheelied through the kink, and I was like, oh, that was mint. So managed to pull it off perfectly. So end of the race on the Sunday, same thing again, like end of the season, whatever. I'd done the stand-up wheelie, obviously way too confident, and as I'm wheeling down there, like the kink's coming, I'm looking at all my mates, like turn to the right, literally looking at all my mates as I'm wheeling, and the grandstand's full as well. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people are there, and I go through the kink a little bit too committed. There's a picture of me with the thing like literally leant over, stood up, and as I drop it down, I tuck the front. So,
I think I remember this.
so I tucked the front.
I was so hoping you were going to tell us you crashed, because
Did you get like a proper bargain for that?
I didn't tell anyone.
how did you get away with that?
I slid up the track. I was injured as well. I had a bad foot, and I was like, if you could have just sprinted to the bike and got going, it wouldn't have been so bad. But I'm like, now I've got the walk of shame. So I stood up and just took a bow to the crowd. And they literally the whole grandstand just burst out laughing.
Oh, brilliant.
And I don't know how, but nobody got it on video.
Oh, you're joking.
I have not seen, nobody's got it on video.
There'll be some, I'm hoping there's a Chasin The Racin fan out there right now trawling through YouTube.
I'll tell you what, there is a video of on YouTube of you doing at Cadwell Park in 2010 it would have been.
Yeah.
When you flicked yourself off coming out of the chicane
And
then ran alongside it and pulled it over and got stopped and got back on.
Yeah, I remember that.
That'll be on YouTube. I'm going to find that. That is on YouTube. I've seen.
I done that. I actually done that a second time in Barcelona in 21 maybe, or 2020, 2021. Last lap and end of the back straight. They put that really silly hairpin in there. And the high side had come out there, and same thing. Ended up getting dragged along beside it. So it was quite a cool. Well, not a good experience on the last lap, but quite a cool thing to be able to pull off, not landing in your head.
I bet. But no, so it's... Where do you want to sit? What is... Obviously, bar winning.
Yeah.
What would be a great finish this year? Because the depth of field of BSB, it's a controlled class in that manner of like, you've got lads who have been doing this championship for years, know their bikes inside out. It's almost like day one again.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because you've not been on a superbike around a British circuit.
Yeah.
And the challenge is humongous.
Yeah. No,
and
it really is.
And I'm really excited to see you in it. But it's like, what are your own expectations?
I think the year I went Supersport was a big eye opener for me because
you're riding sofas around tracks.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it, by the way.
I turned up and I was like, somebody asked me that exact question, and I remember being like, if I'm not top 5, I'm going to be so disappointed. That was what I'd said.
Yeah.
And that was like reality that was my target, and I absolutely got my arse handed to me. Like, it was such a hard year in terms of like, everyone was fast. There was such a difference in the bikes. It was a competitive class, so it was knocked me down a level or two, a peg or two, been like, okay, that's not very realistic, like with a new team, with a new bike, that's whatever. This year's different. Obviously the team's been around for years. We've seen the results of all the guys. Have had amazing years, have had great riders over the years. The Honda's coming on into its own, so I think the opportunity from the team side of thing is amazing. I couldn't have really asked for a better position to be. I'm not going to say positions. I want to be competitive. I want to be able to fight at the front 100%, and I'd love to win races and I'd love to be up there fighting, but there's no getting away from just how competitive BSB is. Like, the guys are incredible. They know the tracks inside out. There's like, the tracks are so different to what I've been riding, and I'm not making excuses. It's totally different to what I've been doing. So I'm completely up for the challenge. I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to try and do as many track days as I can and learn the bumps and learn the quirkiness of the tracks. And let's hope we'll have a good year.
Have you got the bite?
The bite?
The bite for it. Have you got the bite for it?
Yeah, 100%.
Good. That's 100%. What I want. Yeah. That's what I want to hear.
No, I've been working hard. Got a training bike off the team. I've been really fortunate. They gave me a stock 1000, and basically I've been in Spain. We've got our first couple of tests out there in Monte Blanco. It was meant to be Seville, Monte Blanco, and then Navarra. I think Seville's been cancelled because of noise. There's
a noise limit there, and obviously them bikes aren't going to make it, are they?
Yeah, no, exactly. But I've been leaving no stone unturned. I've been to Seville, I've learnt the track. I've been to Monte Blanco, I've learnt the track. I'm trying to give myself the best head start I can. I'm going to come back and ride all the UK tracks, hopefully before we race them. So we'll
you out in Monte Blanco with our episode sponsor as well, just a little plug there for you, Sam.
Yeah, it was good to catch up with Sam, actually. I've been chatting with Sam for years on social media. We've got a couple of friends in common, and we've not actually never really met each other face to face, I think we did once, and then I've not seen him for years, but we still like message each other every now and again. So it was good to catch up with him over in Monte Blanco a few weeks ago.
He loves an Instagram story, does Sam. No.
And he wasn't actually dressed funny when he was there.
He always dresses funny, but he's always got shorts on.
Good singer.
Yeah.
I must ask, and I feel like I'm going to answer my own question really, because you look at, previous British champ. Hold on, I keep getting them two mixed up.
Taron
McKenzie. You're both a similar build and height.
Yeah.
So
he's a little bit smaller.
Is it perfect? You see, you've got the advantage. Perfect. You've got the advantage. But then the physicality of it.
Yeah.
To be blunt, did you struggle with it initially?
So it's funny. Me and Taron both went World Supersport at the same time.
Yes.
And we've had a great couple of years. So I was good mates with Taylor for years because he was in the GP paddock with Michael Laverty managing the team. And then I felt like I'd finished a relationship and joined another one. So honestly, that's the way it felt. I was with Taylor every weekend, so then with Taron every weekend because we both went to World Supersport at the same time. So we were both trying to put weight on at the same time, which sounds bizarre because he's come from Superbike where he's just won the championship and weight was no issue. But then in World Supersport, they had a minimum weight rule. And I had to add 16 kilos to my ZX6. 16 kilos.
16 kilos?
16
Jesus,
kilos, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So Taz was the same boat. He was a little bit fatter than me, so I think he had to add about 10 kilo, I think. Small and dumpy, isn't he? So he had to add a little bit less. But both of us were trying to put weight on. And then I never struggled with, my bike was heavier. The last 2 years, my bike's actually heavier than what my Superbike's going to be now because there's no minimum weight rule in BSB.
Right.
This Superbike, obviously, it's way more power, but it's actually lighter than what I've been riding, so that's a bonus.
Oh, brilliant!
Is there a weight rule for the bike? The bike's got to be a certain weight. But it's not combined.
I think there is, yeah. But like, for example, my bike the last couple of years, dry weight without any fuel or oil or whatever, has been like 174, I think it was.
Yeah.
So like the start of a race, by the time you put like fuel and everything, a full tank of fuel, it was like 185 or maybe even more than that before we started the race. Yeah. And I think Superbike, I could be wrong, but I think it's like high 160s, something like that.
It will be lighter. And your Moto 3 would be what, 90?
Yeah, you could pick it up if you really wanted to. If you're angry enough, you could drag it. So yeah, it was a lot lighter. Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it.
Yeah.
No, it's good that you've got the bite and you've got.
I really do. Yeah, I'm excited.
Are you gonna be based out of Andorra still and coming across? Or
still gonna stay there. Yeah, I think. I think for the first. I wish it was. I wish it was. I think for the first year minimum I'll stay. So I moved to Andorra in 2018. Been there since, and it really made sense when I was doing like World Championship. It was more central. I've been rode like flat track for the first time ever. I rode Supermoto for the first time ever. Like I'd never done any of these things. I mean, like where are you going to do them in Scotland? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Mind you, it's probably an easier bloody commute than the top of Scotland. You can get a flight into like Stansted for 40 quid or something, return.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's why this year I think it's going to be easier going from Andorra, just flying straight to the nearest airport than it would be driving up and down the country every weekend. Yeah. So I'll hopefully just fly in on Wednesday and get out Sunday night if I can, and then continue training and living over there.
Class.
It honestly probably is. It probably is on that. It probably is an easier commute actually. You think you're close if you were in the top of Scotland? Well, your closest round would be Cadwell Park.
Don't forget the best track in the world. We can't mess out the best track in the world. But even that, like everyone's like, Knockhill so far north. I'm like, yeah, it's 2.5 hours south for me. Yeah, exactly, I'm literally even further up.
People say that to us, like, at least you. Yeah, but it's still like 2.5-3 hours away.
Yeah.
North.
Yeah.
So you're probably doing the right thing there.
Manchester for me in a good run is like 5 hours. Yeah. That's on a good run. Like if you get traffic, you can be up to or if you're in a camper, for example, you're probably more like 6 hours. So
still in places like that.
And it's going to be a bit different. Like I know in BSB, the usual thing is most guys stay in motorhomes, don't they, or whatever. I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to just hotel it because again, it's going to be easier for me just to fly in, pick up a rental car, go to a hotel, and it's what I've always done. So it's what I'm used to. I won't be anything fancy. I'll be getting the cheapest possible hotel I can.
I can send you all the
John McPhee in the local travel lodge coming out with smart
100%.
To be fair, you get good points for Holiday Inn, and there's plenty of them close to most all the circuits.
I love it. I tell you what, Tony Rose asked a question. Did you ever manage to give Jeremy Alcoba?
I knew he was going to get brought up.
Proper hiding. Oh, did you?
I knew he was
did you get your own back? Yeah.
Unfortunately, not.
Not yet. Not yet.
There's time.
I remember. So that was. It's not my proudest moment. I'll put that out there. It's definitely not my proudest moment.
You can blame Tony Rose for that one, by the way.
He's
one of our pages.
He did deserve it. I'm not being bitter. He did deserve it.
Good.
And I was teammates with Darren Binder at the time, and they make me laugh so much. South Africans are they're brilliant. And we were sat in the hotel on the Sunday night. Like, bearing in mind, we've been in Qatar for 3 weeks, fully locked down into our own rooms. Like, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. They made us go out the fire exit at the back door because they're like, we're not letting you use the normal. Because in Qatar, it was like. They were all, during COVID when they're all like
lockdown,
quarantine.
They were all in quarantine together. So the whole paddock was locked down together. We were allowed to mingle with each other, but nobody from Qatar or none of the locals there. So they were basically putting us in and out of a different exit. And
Jesus,
we were there for 3 weeks, and out of the first 2 rounds, it was like that was my year to try and make something happen, and he took me off of both races. So I was obviously a bit upset. I've got over it now, but I was upset at the time. And obviously we had the incident, the ball kicking incident, and then that night at the hotel, me and Darren were sat having a beer, and we weren't meant to be, but we're sat like at our little, what they call, reception. Alcoba and his dad came up, and they were sat like at a table further up from us, and Darren was like, "Fuck it, bro." He's like, "When he goes to the toilets, I'll dip the lights and you just smash him." And you had that moment of like, "Oh, yeah, let's do it." I was like half a beer in, my confidence was really high. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." We didn't do it, thankfully. I don't think it would have been the best place or time to do it, but just the thought of it was enough to make me be like, "Yeah, that'd be great."
That's a great idea. Come on, dip them.
You're talking about obviously your team manager being Alberto Puig before, and I think this year your team manager is the British version of that, because Steve is like the most blunt and direct person ever, and if you understand him, he's great, but if you didn't know him and he said something, you're like, fucking hell, I think you probably got just thinking about that there before, you probably got the British Alberto Puig.
I'll tell you what, I've got another cracking one here from Alex Chapman. Moto3 is famous for its intense pack riding. How do you manage risk versus reward when battling in such close quarters?
Good one as well. A lot of times, in all honesty, it's like everyone's like, "Oh, you just need to remove your brain," but you actually don't. It's so close. Like somewhere like Barcelona, you can be 10 wide going into turn 1.
Yeah.
And risk, it is risk, but it's like calculated risk. And I remember Neil Hodgson was always like so big on this. He was like, "I want you to roll out an FP1 of like the first race of the year, and if you get anywhere near anyone, it doesn't matter if you're an out lap, an in lap, I don't care." He's like, "If you can get close to someone, give them an elbow. Like, just show them that they're not going to be able to push you around." And the first year, I didn't really understand it. I was like, why is that? Like, why is he telling me to do that? But then as the years went on, I realised it's because as soon as somebody knows, like if they try tipping in on underneath you and you like close the door on them or you push them wide or whatever, it just makes them think like, I can't really take my chances with him. And Moto3 is 100% about that. But the trouble is, everybody does it.
Yeah.
So that's why there's so many crashes, because you try like going underneath someone and they just release the brake and close the door on you, or you try basically releasing the brake and closing the door and they'll just push into the side of you and push you wide. And it is a little bit like that. But it's, it is a little bit of risk versus reward in terms of how often you get away with it.
Are you going to miss that? The Moto3?
Well, honestly,
because you not see any, you don't see that close.
I think, you don't see that close, but
No.
I think the closest championship that you do see it in is BSB.
You do in moments of like the last lap of car riding, that was a Moto3.
Yeah,
Last 2 laps, wasn't
that's
it? You know
probably
what I mean?
one of the best races I've ever seen.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But then you get them moments like, but you think about the final. People have almost got to wait for those triumphant battles.
Yeah.
But you flick on Motor 3.
Yeah, it's every race.
It's every second of every lap of everything. But
yeah,
if you've been in that environment for a few years, are you going to miss that? Is it... Everything else must be borderline, do I dare say, a bit boring. Like, come on, lads, let's bunch up a little bit closer.
Sometimes. I think sometimes I will miss it, but ultimately... I'd done that many years of it that I was like, I'm ready to get away from it.
That many years of a steady first lap.
Like when I went Supersport and it was like, right, this is my pace. I can stay within like 2 or 3 tenths of that lap time, and I just need to do that every lap. It was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, that's what I want to do now. I want to just be like focus on myself and not have anyone else. Yeah, people can interrupt your race if they're battling with you, but you're not going to go from P1 to P20 in one straight. And because that happens, like Phillip Island, that happened to me, and Barcelona, that happened to me. Sometimes it was the reverse, but sometimes you can literally be leading the race and you go into turn 1 in like P15. Then it's like, what do I do now? Now I need to pass 14 other guys to get back to where I just was.
But riders your level won't lose their shit when that happens. Like in a race, that calculation, like you and Danny Kent, for example, that Motor 3 level.
Yeah.
Of being able to go, right, chop change. It's like, everyone else would be like, oh, fuck, if it's not 1-2, 1-2, 1-2.
Yeah. Well, I think Motor 3, it's the only category in the world where like certain tracks like Barcelona, like I led the race for a few laps and then got to like 5 laps from the end, and I actually just kind of left the door open because I'm like, okay, go, I want 2 or 3 years to pass me, because there's no way I'm leading out the last corner going into the last lap, because I know I'll be like P10 in turn 1. So you want to be like, the perfect position is P3, because then you get 2 guys, you need to leave maybe 2-3 tenths on them, so you get the perfect slipstream, and maybe someone will slipstream you as well, but you're going to get enough of a slipstream to still be top 2, top 3 in turn 1. But any other championship, you'd be like, no, I want to lead, I want to be the first one out of the last corner or whatever. But in Motor 3 it is a lot about tactics.
Sounds like the F900 Cup, doesn't it?
A little bit. Would you have a stab at that?
I would.
F9.
Yeah,
there you are, you see. I'll tell you what, one of my final questions, and I've got to ask it. Northwest 200. Would that ever tickle your fancy having a go at that?
It would. I think Northwest and TT is something that I've so much respect for all you boys. Like, honestly, what you guys do is incredible. That is the ultimate race. Them two are the ultimate races, I think.
Come have a go at it.
Across the globe. But
come have a go at it.
And the reason I'm saying I would definitely do it is because I can. Because when I was 12 years old, come back to when my dad first started racing with me and everything, he said, right, there's 2 conditions. I'm going to try and give you like the best support I possibly can. 2 conditions: you're never going road racing, and you'll never have a bike on the road. So I don't have a license either. I don't even have a license to ride on the road, and I've stuck to my end of the deal, obviously. But
very respectful for that.
The last 2 years I have been to the Northwest for the first time ever, because it always clashes with Le Mans. That was another funny one. My first ever Grand Prix win in Le Mans. It was my first ever. Second one. My dad was sat in a bar in the Northwest somewhere. He was over at the Northwest when I was in France.
What a
He phoned me up. They're all on the piss, like, yeah, come on, that's brilliant. But yeah, it always clashed with Le Mans, so I'd never ever got to go and see it. And then 2 years ago I went, and it was like, just for anyone that's not been, you have to go, don't you? TT is on the bucket list. That's something that, like, this year I want to do it, especially with the team now with Hawk. I don't know whether they're running Michael again or not, or what the plan is, but I 100% want to go there and join them. So
it is class. You've got to go if you've never been.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm desperate. That's on the bucket list for this year, so I'll go and watch. And
that'll be good to see you there. But we'll be there with the studio, obviously, you know what I mean? So come round and pester Grace. And
definitely.
If you run out of budget for your travel lodge, Grace will put you up in here, very low rates.
I'll take you up on that.
Very, very, very low rates. Grace is all about the cash, so don't worry about
fit
that.
About 6 Scotsmen in here, that'd be great.
How do you explain that one in the paddock? Grace was 6 Scot anyway. Let's not go down that avenue there. Class. But I tell you what, I must say thank you so much to the patrons.
There's been some cracking questions.
It has been, like, always. I always say it on every episode that we naturally go through them anyway. But obviously, everyone knows you really well to ask all them questions, especially Tony Rose. I think he hit a nerve on that one. I'm a big fan. But obviously, Jason Photostrada, John James, Jess Mortimer, Travis McClurg. Am I saying that right, McClurg? I know you asked his question before, but
McClurg,
we're going to go with McClurg anyway. There you go. Michael Harrison, Andy Ryder, Tony Rose, Aaron Jeffs, Mark Bates, and Alex Chapman. Honestly, thank you so much for your questions, and I want to. You've got work tomorrow. I've got work. Well, are you at work tomorrow? Saturday.
Cycling tomorrow, mate.
Cycling tomorrow. Well, I'm at work tomorrow. I've got Tracy cut, so there we go. And obviously, Grace. It's been a heavy night, long day, and it's been totally worth it. But hey, thank you so much for coming on, John.
No, thank you very much for making the trip up. I hope Scotland's been a pleasure for you. And
Well, the Jenny's still going.
Jenny's still going. Nobody's robbed you yet.
Not
That's
yet.
a bonus.
There's time. But I tell you what, I feel being dead rude here. Did you get through your list?
Yeah. Literally, the only things my wife said to me was the things that people were going to laugh at me. So I got them out there.
Oh,
So,
class, man.
all
Absolutely
good.
class. But honestly, thank you so much. Enjoy the show. I know
Appreciate that.
this will be coming out in a few weeks after that, but thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely class. But obviously, this show has been brought to you by OMG Racing, JCT, Truck and Trailer Hire, Lucky Day Competitions, and Josh. Take it away with our singer.
Episode sponsor, SLH Motorcycles.
Fantastic. And obviously, thank you so much. And anyone who wants to sponsor the next episode, please get in touch. And I've got Grace in the peripheral here going, please sell hoodies, because we've got a few. We've only got a handful of them left from the Ugly & Co gang. So they've done a fantastic job on that.
Well, I think I'm joining Ugly & Co this year as well. I'm hopefully going to have my own John McPhee merch at BSB races. So that's something that will be really cool.
Yeah.
So when you go to the stand and you see John's merch, just turn that way and buy the Chasin The Racin one.
I'm going to make my stuff like maybe £1 cheaper than yours.
Hand up that skateboard. Is that skateboard? It's under this
Oh,
bollocks.
we'll do
Wait,
it
do not
after,
leave till you. This is perfect timing because you've obviously got that to sign before you bugger off on that side of things. But hey, really looking forward to seeing this year. You know what I mean?
Thank you
Fresh
very
blood in
much.
the paddock.
Looking forward
Plenty
to
of bite.
Looking forward to
it's
it.
going to be
It's
great.
going to be an exciting year.
Class, man. Class. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Josh?
you very much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it. I've been listening to you guys for a long time now, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Was it? How did it feel for you? Was it good? Was it bad?
Oh, it was good. Great to see you actually meet you in person, because obviously I've been listening for a while and feel like I know the voices every time I'm driving. I've got it on the background, so it's good to meet you all in person.
I'm looking forward to hitting pause and going, that was actually shite, you wasted my time and like that. But
I do
obviously,
say that you should never meet your heroes.
that's you, Josh. There you are. You're a disappointment, son. But hey, thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll catch up with you soon.